start as soon as we get out.
Recording started.
Okay.
This is the
First of all, thank you all for coming this evening. It's a real pleasure to have you, and we can always use anybody's participation that wants to participate. We've got projects that anybody can take on. Let's see. The monthly meeting of the Board of San Carlos Estates Water Control District is called to order at, it looks like 6:04 p.m. on June 19th, 2023. Quorum is present. And roll call, Jim Bradford, Chair, Vice Chair Jennifer Finazzo, Supervisor John Cellucci, Secretary Treasurer Chris Lawson, Audrey Madreas, Manager, and if I mispronounce your name, please just correct me. I will eventually get it. Attorney Richard Pringle. Yeah, he's here. Okay. Engineer Ron Edenfield, along with, let's see, how many people we have out there tonight?
10, 11.
Anybody got them counted?
11.
Okay, we have 11 landowners and visitors.
One outside.
Okay.
Somebody's signing it.
Everybody's seen we have quit distributing do we still put the agenda out front?
On the website.
It's on out front as
Yeah.
well as the minutes and the attendance sheet.
Okay. We are going to, in the future, probably discontinue printing the agenda because it'll be posted when you come in. And the, let's see, the agenda, what else were we printing up? But anyway, just on paper issues, we're going to try to print it, post it, so you can sit here and follow us through the meeting.
It's huge. Look at this. It's a big one.
The meeting agenda in the packets. Are there any amendments to the agenda you guys want to bring up, John?
Well, it's not time yet, Jim. Right now it's the engineer's report.
No, he comes right after this, on my sheet.
We'll call engineer, number 3.
Yeah, my sheet's, I don't know why mine's a little different tonight. Okay, I got that one too. Okay.
You're good. Where'd you get this one?
Oh, my wife prints that up for me.
This one.
That's the one I worked with, okay? So, okay. Ron, you're up.
Thank you, sir. I was assisting
Yeah,
Supervisor
Yeah, 3
in
minutes.
his search for cable. Currently, we have about 17 open permits that are in some various stages of, or applications, I should say, in various stages of review and construction. We actually had a month where we had no new formal applications. We did have 3 pre-apps conversations with various applicants. We finalized 1 permit, had 3 inspections plus ongoing applications for finals and substantial completion type inspections. We also continued on with our inventory that we've been conducting throughout the district of projects, driveway culverts that are in various stages, some of which were Morris Depew applications, some of which predate Morris Depew, just to try and get a handle on what all is out there that's in some stage of completion.
While you're speaking of the permit applications, I just have a comment I'd like to make. I was talking to who's the contractor today, Jim? Thrasher. Sorry. Keith Thrasher. And anyway, and I had observed this during the times that we had the former engineer here. And it appears even today that some of those driveways and stuff are not, they're soft, they were soft, being done softer by other contractors. And you can tell by looking at them that apparently they aren't compacting them. And I would only think that from your point of view, we need to put something in the application that says what they actually have to do to make that hold up and the depth. I mean, you probably do have the depth of the soil that they put over them depending on the surface they're using. But the ones that are gravel, there's some of them that have been out there a couple of years now that are just really worn down and they're on brand new houses. And the reason I say this is because it's important for us as the water management district to see that they hold up for the long term because they're on our property. But I'd also think that for the property owner's point of view, they're usually novice people building new houses, and they rely on contractors to do the right thing. And that's only done right if the inspectors do their job.
We had, I'll be real quick on this because I know we got a long agenda here, but we've noticed some of the same thing, and some contractors are very good about taking care of those issues, others not so much so. We've tried to work with those individuals to make sure that the end product is something that's suitable for the district's interest. In the long term, the transition from 12 and 15-inch culverts to 18-inch culverts is creating a bit of an issue by elevating the access point into the driveway. But we're taking a second look at that, and we will come back to you with a recommendation on that as to whether or not it's to allow only elliptical type culverts or whether it's to allow 15-inch culverts, so we can get those down a little bit.
Okay.
Part of the problem is there's a limitation in the code. You can only sump a culvert 3 inches, but when you're adding that much vertically, it creates a bit of a problem.
Okay,
So
I have a question for you on that while you're talking about it. And that's, if you guys can't hear, we're talking about the depth the culverts are sitting in the ditches. And the question that I would have back to you would simply be that if the bottom of the ditch is muck and mud because we haven't cleaned the ditches in 15 years, wouldn't it be more appropriate to do a transit line on the ditches and control the depth of the culverts by a measurement from the center of the road opposed to?
Historically, the district engineer has not provided an invert elevation for the pipes.
How do we do that? Because when we look at, I mean, we've got 75% of our culverts are in now, but there will be people who will replace them over the years along with this remaining new construction. And if we don't start someplace, you watch our culvert pipes in the rainy season, everyone's at a different height, and the bottom of the ditches, because they haven't been cleaned in 15 years, and that's a project we've got to talk about, is starting to clean some of the ditches and reline them and stuff so that we have proper drainage to the end.
And our thought on that was to get a budget to survey the culverts throughout the district and set lines, set elevations, flow lines, if you will, for each roadway,
Okay.
and then control it from that perspective.
Okay.
And there's no previous history from Morris to Pew surveys?
They just threw them in the ditches.
We've contacted them, and there's no, they do have various topo throughout the district, but they do not have each culvert in elevation.
Now, when I spoke with Keith today, he referenced the fact that these pipes were just set in the culverts and covered. There was no real control over whether they're even straight in line with each other.
Our guidance has been to evaluate or to shoot the inverts of the pipes upstream and downstream and make sure that pipe is their new pipe is in line with those two and pointed in the right direction.
Okay.
That's been the closest compromise we could come to where we think we ought to be.
Okay. I just want to let you know the board's behind you to make sure these are correct.
And that's summation of our report, other than we'll talk some more throughout the meeting.
Okay, manager's report.
Okay, so just to update, govdeals.net.
Could you start with your name, please? There's a lot of
I'm
people
sorry.
who don't know you yet.
I do apologize, and the correct pronunciation is Medeiros. So it's Audrey Medeiros. I'm the new manager of the Sand House Estates Water Control District. My report has to do with govdeals.net and our obligation to get some funding back for the products that we have as assets. So all of our assets have been posted on the GovDeals. I did monitor the activities daily to correspond with potential buyers, and we did sell a few things. However, the remaining items were not sold, and due to several duplications of products that we had, that other government agencies also had the same thing. So it's a very time-consuming process, and unfortunately, buyers not picking up their products is a problem that I was forewarned about. And yes, we have 2 items that were sold. Now, whether they don't pick up, that's on them. We still got paid for it. However, it's very time-consuming. And I'm asking that the board to recommend disposal of the remaining items as we can see fit.
Okay, let's put that on the agenda to be voted on when we get down the agenda. What it is that I monitored and watched the progress of this. We put our excess items, such as the old road signs, the old posts that have been bent, the old gates at the back of the subdivision, any items that were paid for by the taxpayers of this subdivision. We now, instead of just throwing them away, we're going, the Tuscan, our auditor has suggested that we sell those items and dispose of them properly, unlike they were being done. We have done that now, and now it's time to now dispose of the remainder of them. There's not a lot of value to them, and because we had a hurricane, a lot of the other cities are getting rid of the same items. So nobody's really out there searching to drive across the state to pick up ours. Okay? And we don't, cost of shipping and stuff, it's not feasible to think that that would happen.
Okay, so I have 2 more items I wanted to discuss. The job description, we'll leave that for 10H when we get to it. But as far as budgeting for the computers, the iPad, and the items that were needed for the manager's position, I was allotted $3,500. I'm happy to say at this point in time, I'm $1,000 under budget. And at this point, the district now has 2 computers with mirror image documentation for documentation and records keeping. And I will continue to be working with Treasurer Lawson on an ongoing basis to make sure that we have mirror image record keeping for the needs of the district.
Okay, and that was, if you guys didn't hear, she brought us in under budget on purchasing of the new computers, along with the fact that mirror imaging of it now means that, say, her house burns down, Chris has a copy. It's not, we're not going to lose all of our records because of that, and that was a concern by Tuscan, and it was written in a report last year that we needed to improve upon that. And other than renting a facility, a warehouse or something, this was the most economical way to go about
So, Jim, just to add to what you just said,
it. Yes, ma'am?
we also have 2 cloud backups. We have
Thank
a
you.
cloud backup on Google Drive, and we have a cloud backup on OneDrive.
Okay, so we're trying to really improve these things. I'm new at a lot of it, as maybe some of you are, but we're trying to make sure that we're getting the bookkeeping and the records and things in order as they should be. Anything else?
The last item is going to be discussed under 10H,
Okay.
so we can wait for that.
Okay. You are considering getting 2 more file cabinets, or so we're still haven't done
Yes.
that.
So when I get to that, I will discuss what I did obtain. When we get to 10H, I'll
Okay.
talk about that, and then I'll also talk about what we're going to do going forward.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Now, wow, it's a chair's report. Anybody want to give it? No. Anyway, I'm going to introduce you to Peter Debas, and I hope that I'm okay with the attorney on doing this. He wants to give a report on the things that we've been doing, and so he needs to bring us up to date. He needs to leave the meeting, so we, at this time, would like to ask Peter to speak. Now, just one thing, Peter. For all of you who do not know Peter, he got involved at the very beginning after the hurricane. Peter has been doing, I can't even imagine the amount of hours, free of charge, for the people of our district. He lives on Papillion Drive and raises his family there, and he's been very conscientious about not just helping out with the FEMA, but he's also been looking up grant monies and helping me apply for that stuff, taking the full lead on that. Okay?
Thank you, Chair, for that introduction. I'll attempt to address both the board and the attendees. Today I'm here to speak specifically about an item for adoption called the Lee County Joint Local Mitigation Strategy. This is something that is a bit of urgent business, and I'm going to explain the purpose for it now. There's a federal program called the Hazard Mitigation Grants Program. This is connected to the Ian response, and it's being distributed through the State Department of Emergency Management. We sort of got wind of this, and although we were not previously part of their mitigation efforts, which run through Lee County Emergency Management, we have become involved in this process. Now, because of the Ian response, this program in Lee County alone has been funded with $340 million that is exclusively earmarked for mitigation of future flood issues in Lee County. And there's also funding for surrounding counties. So you can see this is a very well capitalized major part of the Ian response effort. We've been attending the meetings which run in the Lee County Emergency Response Center, and our projects which we developed with the engineer have been accepted for past the county level screening, and now are up for state level screening. So it's taken a lot to get to this point, but in order to be part of this, actually, we were supposed to adopt this mitigation strategy. So the mitigation strategy governs the process by which the county runs the project adoption. So it doesn't give up any sovereignty or authority in any way. It just means that we agree that the process that the county is runs by the rules that they decide to run it. The other members of the LMS, as they call it, are City of Indian Springs, City of Estero, unincorporated Lee County schools. So basically, all the local government authorities are a member of it, and they sort of have to jointly, together with FDEM, decide how this money is sorted out. So for us to have an impact on that process, we need to be an official adoptee and show that we are an official adoptee. And like I said, this is significant money that can impact our resilience going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And did you bring that for us to sign tonight? Or do
Mr.
we
Chairman,
just need to officially adopt it?
well, I brought a resolution
Okay.
to adopt the program, the strategy.
Okay.
So
And a lot of these same meetings are being attended by myself, Ron Edenfield, and Peter.
So I
Okay.
have that for you later.
Did you have anything else, Peter?
No, sir.
I want to thank you very much for the hard work you put in and the loyalty and the dedication. We couldn't do it without you. And that goes along, and I would like you to comment in just a minute. We put in we're under the chair's report, so we also have put in, since the beginning of, after Hurricane Ian, I don't remember how many projects we put in for to begin with, but we have tentatively got 6 approved, and they are moving forward, which the 6 happen to be the rear gates, the signage around the subdivision, all being paid for by FEMA, along with 2 new weirs that are projects that are, nothing is confirmed yet, just to let you know, but they're projects that are now moving forward for the next process. And so 2 new weirs, which that is going to give us significant control over the water flow in the subdivision, because we will be able, the new weirs will have gates in them so that we can lower the water before a storm and a hurricane or a major rain event, as we know when they're coming. So that's going to be a big plus for the subdivision. The other projects were the culvert pipes at the railroad track. They're undersized. We put in for having them enlarged. FEMA that's one of the projects that they are probably going to cover. We also run
We've got bank erosion, stabilization, and a limited amount of canal clean out from sediment that came from the erosion and bank failure.
So that, along with the immediate cleanup after the storm that took place, and you have to think that Mr. Enfield here for all the hard work and making sure that everything was done on time and such. I want to thank our attorney for his promptness in working out a way that we could sign off on this stuff without having to come to meetings, because we couldn't have done it if we had to come to meetings to do this. So I got put in charge of being able to take charge of that for the board, and we were able to get all these projects moving forward. And that's one of the things that's been going on. A couple things we're going to have to put on the agenda for tonight is that the interlocal agreement between Bonita Springs and the San Carlos Estates Water District and Lee County. That agreement had been talked about for years around here, but never got moved forward. Again, I would like to thank Mr. Edenfield for his ability to work well with the people of the city of Bonita Springs. Myself and him have been down there for one meeting with their attorney, assistant city manager. This will reflect in the future, hopefully, but if we don't move forward, we won't get anything. So hopefully it'll give us the ability to receive money from the outside agencies for their using of our canal system, and they'll be paying their fair share. None of this stuff happens overnight. I can talk about it tonight, and nothing, if we can get enough stuff pushed forward, we may be able to get it put on some tax rolls for next year, which we will receive money from the subdivisions around us for that. So that's what we're working for, but time in this is going to be of the essence. And then let's see, the chamber, I'm done with that. Anybody got a question about that? I'll just let you have a quick second if you do. Yes, sir.
The FEMA money, is that going to be something other than Ian? I listened to that FEMA briefing on the website, and it's stated multiple times it had to be directly related to damage from the storm.
The difference being is that they have subcategories in that, which we had, let me think of the term here real quick. It's mitigation.
Right.
So one of their facilities is mitigation. We apply under the mitigation. So therefore, they're planning for future storms, not past storms. So that they'll rectify a problem so they don't have to pay out in the future.
Okay, good.
Okay?
So we're not getting any money from the storm damage?
Oh, sure we are.
And the signs and the gates, right?
The gates, the signs, the cleanup, everything that happened there. Pardon?
Were the weirs damaged by the storm?
Yeah,
Did you claim that?
we did claim that, and that's why they're going to replace the weirs. They came under the mitigation for future storms. So considering that they have been in for a few years, they also are looking to cover that. Because they realized there was a survey put out by FGCU about possible flooding of maybe up to 53 homes in this subdivision if certain things weren't done over a certain period of time. So that fell into play with them moving forward.
I just worry because they're still arresting people from getting the federal COVID money.
Can I give them your name?
That's so weird.
That's what I'm asking you. I don't want to get property owners involved in something where we're going to end up a couple years.
We are not. Now, we're not twisting words with them or anything. We're straight out with them. They know what's going on. The applications are all filled in as such. I tried to get Mr. Edenfield to volunteer to go to jail. He refused to do that, so therefore we weren't putting anything out there that wasn't true.
You got to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah, I thought you get 3 square meals a day and a place to sleep, so.
And free medical care.
So we talked about the interlocal agreement between the Bonita Springs. This will probably be, and this needs to be on the agenda for tonight. The chamber meetings, this is probably our last time here. The chamber has changed management. Don Brewer, who was here before, has now moved on to become a senior person over at Pelican Bay. And the people that are now managing it, they don't want us being here in the evening time, and they're only open 4 days a week now. So that they've limited a lot of things. We were having our FEMA meetings here on Fridays. They're closed on Fridays now, so we had to move those back to Thursdays but we're really about done with the FEMA meetings, and we will have a new location for those also. I wrote down hazard mitigation here. Anyway, I'm going to bring up one other thing that needs to be on the agenda tonight, and that is the sign for the San Carlos Estates Water Control District. Basically, we need to, it was put in originally by members of the community and funds that was derived for that. It was installed on San Carlos Estates Water Control District property, and recently it was becoming worn, needed some updating. John took the bull by the horns, went and cleaned it, painted it, spent a lot of time on it, and if you guys haven't seen it, it's really a vast improvement. And San Carlos Estates Water Control District basically doesn't have a sign. So now we're going to adopt that sign belongs to the San Carlos Estates Water Control District, and it'll be maintained by us in the future. And we give the accolades and the thanks to the men in the past that put the sign up to begin with. I went down with them and helped them stand it up. I used my machine to move it over where it is, but I had nothing to do with the actual building. I think I'm going to conclude the chair's report this time, and we'll have a treasurer's report.
Okay. I'm going to modify their treasurer's report in the past that we've done it before, because I know I talk fast and I'm not sure everybody hears me and listens. So I have presented the bills for payment, which you all are signing and reviewing now. And I provided with you the current income expense check detail and the comparison reports for the month of May, as well as the bank reconcilements. So unless you have some questions about the financial reports I provided you, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, well, I'm good at the moment, so.
Jennifer, good? John?
Now, the only thing I can see is that the total expenditure so far for Ian is pretty much in line with what we set aside.
Yeah, we've exhausted it. We're a little over by $1,000.
But pretty much we're in line
Absolutely.
from 8-9 months ago, making a forecast what to put in there. I think it's pretty good.
Yep. So that will bring up something for later discussions with the budget, and I'll save that.
Okay. Okay.
Do we need to make a motion on the interlocal?
You can. We have that later in the meeting.
Okay, attorney's report.
Yes, sir. I have brought with me the resolution on the Lee County Joint Local Mitigation Strategy. I provided the supervisors with the Gallagher, Mr. Gallagher's lawyers negotiated agreement that he and I have been working on extensively, and also the changes to the language in the access use and permit application. Those are all on your agenda, together with 2 or 3 other items on your agenda. The one item that I have that is not on your agenda, and this is the only item that I'm going to really talk about, is the landowner letter to the Phase 2 landowners. I did get that drafted, and that was the request, not demand, but request for the Phase 2 assessment landowners to make their proportionate contributions to the reimbursement of the maintenance budget, the district's maintenance budget, for the money that the district paid out earlier to pay off that Phase 2 assessment. So if you want to see it or take any action with it, then I'll be glad to. I thought I would send it to you and you give me comment back. I believe you already took action. I don't think any additional action is required, but I just wanted to let you know that's the only item that's not on your agenda for me to discuss tonight, and I'll send that to you so that you can see it. But I think I've accomplished what you wanted to with it. And then Ms. Chris can put the information in, populate the information on it that is needed for each of the property owners, and then send it out with the landowners.
Okay.
All right. The other item that I did want to mention is in relation to what you talked about with regard to the interlocal agreement with the city of Bonita Springs. From what I can tell, there is a short time period to get that accomplished because the tax bills, the Lee County property appraiser and tax collector will generate their bills soon. So the city of Bonita Springs and Lee County, if they're going to be a part of an interlocal agreement to pay funds to the district, then they'll need to know what that interlocal agreement says early enough so they can build that expense into their tax bills.
Okay.
So I agree with you to add that to the item, and I have more to say about it when we get there.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Amendments to the meeting agenda. Well, we have brought up a number of items. Chris, have you written those down?
I have.
Do we need to take any more action on that?
We have to make a motion to
Okay.
add them to the agenda and
Okay.
approve them.
And there are 4 of them. Is that what you have?
I have 3. Interlocal
Okay.
agreement, change of venue, and adopting the signage.
Okay, we're moving the meeting.
Yes, sir.
So that needs to be.
I actually had a 4th one was disposal of the unsold surplus items.
Disposal of the old, that's right.
Yes.
Sorry.
So the interlocal agreement with Bonita Springs and Lee County was 1. Disposal of the unsold surplus items was 2. Relocation of the board meetings was 3. And the sign for the district, entrance sign for the district was 4 that I have on my list. Is that
Okay, and the only thing we need to do as far as that goes is take inventory of the items that are being disposed of, and that needs to be brought before the board next month, okay? But we can approve the disposal of them now.
Yes.
All right, so do we have a motion to add those 4 items to the agenda?
Yes, and make a motion to add the 4 items to the agenda.
Second?
Aye, all,
All in favor?
motion carries. Public input on business agenda items, 3-minute limit. Anybody got anything on the agenda items? At the end, we have more time for the public. If there are no agenda items, then we will move forward with our agenda. Business agenda items that are requiring action this evening. The meeting minutes need to be approved for 5/15/23.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes for 5/15/23.
I second the motion.
Aye, motion carries. Financial report and bank statement approval for 5/31/23. Financial report for 5/31/23. Bank statements for 06/30/23. Bills and financial report as of 6/19/23.
I need a motion and second for each of those.
Okay, motion to approve the final report and bank statements approved for 5/31/23. Financial reports 5/31/23. Bank statements 6/30/23. Bills and financial reports as of 6/19/23.
I'll second the motion.
Aye, motion carries. Changes to the language of the access, use, and permit application and the right-of-way improvement agreement. The right-of-way use permit application, packet, cover letter, and possible other documents of the district.
And you have a copy of what Richard sent out in your packet.
I read it.
I read it.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I may just briefly, I've made, as I am prone to do, I have read through what I prepared and found places where I could be even clearer than I was in the version that I sent to you.
Okay.
So I have made some further edits to the document that was circulated to you. One of them, and probably a primary change, is to make it clear at the beginning of the statement that the statement is a clarification of the district's rights and authority that the district already has over the district's right-of-ways. So that right up front, I make it clear we are not adding any additional rights or regulations or authority of the district. I'm just recognizing the rights and authority that the district has with regard to the control and of the district's right-of-ways and the district's property, real and personal property. And essentially what this provision will do is make it clear for anyone in the future who might not understand that the district has the authority, has had the authority from the beginning of the creation of the district to control what happens in the district's right-of-ways, including, as you indicated earlier, the driveway connection points that are located in the district's right-of-ways as well, and the use of the district's right-of-ways. And so this language makes it clear that if any parcel owner in the future uses their property for an illegal purpose, that is going to require, because the only way into their property is through district right-of-ways, that's going to require a use of the district's right-of-ways that is not proper. Also, an individual, a parcel owner, might use the district's right-of-ways for an illegal purpose or in an illegal manner. If you remember, is it Imperial Parkway that came in and cut across the corner of the district earlier on? And then there were people who were traveling back and forth and driving onto Imperial Parkway from the district and vice versa. And not the chair, but others, of course. You would never do that, I'm sure. But that would be an example of an illegal use of the district's right-of-ways. So this provision, I would like to add it into the agreement with landowners for permitting and also into the application for a driveway permit or any permit. Remember, your manual says that it's not just driveway permits that requires your permission, but any use in the district's right-of-way at all, any use at all requires district approval if it's a use in the district right-of-way or of the district's right-of-way. So this document, if it meets with the board's approval, I would like to place this language in all the appropriate district documents so that everybody will understand clearly that the district has control and authority over the district's right-of-ways and always has had.
I do have a question. You used the term illegal use of property. I would only have to assume you're referring to anything out of the Bonita Springs code enforcement, like anything that they would regulate as already in the city of Bonita Springs documents meaning illegal use.
Yes, sir.
The misuse of land such as real estate that's designed for homes and being used for something else.
Right. There are essentially, and I say this in many different venues, there are 3 layers in the city of Bonita Springs, 4 layers, excuse me, 4 layers of authority in the city of Bonita Springs. Federal law, state law is number 2, Lee County ordinances, that's a local law, and then the city of Bonita Springs ordinances is another layer of local law in the city of Bonita Springs. As an example, and I think what you're referring to is
being consistent.
Yes, sir, the land use, in particular, the zoning laws of the city of Bonita Springs,
right.
And the comprehensive plan of the city of Bonita Springs, and the permit requirements of the city of Bonita Springs.
So we're not really changing anything.
We're not changing anything.
We're clarifying.
Yes, sir. We're just saying that all of those obligations, if they are violated, if there is an illegal use of the property that's in violation of the city of Bonita Springs rules, or if Lee County rules, or state of Florida rules,
Then they're in violation of ours.
then they're in violation of ours too. Absolutely. And they can't use your roads to gain access to their property for an illegal use.
Okay.
So that's what this is all related to. And again, as now said at the beginning, as clarification of the district's rights and authority over the district's right-of-ways, we're saying, notwithstanding anything else we say, you can't use the district's right-of-ways to access property for an illegal use. That's the essence of it. And if you do, then we reserve to ourselves the ability to take any action.
Yeah, but in that, Bonita Springs would become the authority because we are consistent with what they're asking.
Yes, sir. And in particular, remember the city of Bonita Springs has part of their ordinances a provision in it that says that, and I'm going to paraphrase, that the district has to approve the driveway connection to the district's right-of-ways
Sure.
as a prerequisite to the city building permit issuing the final certificate of occupancy for a new dwelling or for a structure.
Right.
So that's how it all ties together.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure
Some
we.
examples of what you're talking about is illegal use of somebody's property that we're having out here. I'm a little confused about that.
Well, there's not really has to be an example. What we're doing is just being in compliance
Sounds
with
like
the
you're stretching
city.
your power a little bit.
Pardon?
to me. It sounds like you're stretching your power.
We're not changing anything. All we're doing is getting in line with what the city of Bonita Springs already does.
You're using them as a cudgel, it sounds to me.
You live in the city of Bonita Springs.
I do.
Okay.
Yes, you do.
That's all you're under the same rules all day long.
Mr. Greenville, can I
But you're not
suggest
city,
an
you're
example?
a drainage district.
I suggest an example.
Bonita Springs rules.
You are in the city of Benita Springs.
Let me suggest an example, and district attorney can correct me if this example doesn't
District
make
attorney.
sense. Somebody has a property here, and they have a hobby of brewing beer. That's their hobby. But they start brewing a lot of beer. They put a microbrewery in there, and they begin packing up the bottles. And they get tractor trailers to go down the right of way to pack up the bottles because they're selling them. Now that's a violation of city ordinances, regular ordinances, state laws. There's a bunch of things they're doing because they don't have a liquor license. They don't have the health department will come in. There's a lot of stuff. I know some people around here who make wine, make beer, and that's great. That's what you do for your own consumption. But if they get out of control and start doing that, and trucks are coming in and taking out cases, that's not what this area is for.
Businesses out of their houses out there, they ship out all the time.
I will tell you exactly. I run my business out of the house. I'll tell you something people don't understand. We're zoned agriculture, and you can run a business out of your house. What you can't do here is have people come to your house for retail for your
No,
business.
I understand that.
So that's what you can't. That's an ordinance. That's a city ordinance, and it's county.
If any of you remember when they were selling eggs up on the road at that farm, they later on started selling beef. The beef was not in compliance because they didn't raise it on the property, and they shut them down. So that was without us even having anything to say. They were out of compliance with the city of Bonita Springs ordinance. And that's all we're doing is getting in line with them. We're not creating a new rule.
No, sir, you're not.
Mr. Bradford, so I'm a little unclear as well. So I just heard that you're concerned about illegal use. So you're defining use illegal as Bonita Springs, the county, the state, federal. But then I heard the next breath, any use at all. So what is?
Did you say any use at all?
I don't remember saying
He
that.
didn't say that.
He did say it. So I wrote it down when he said it. So we can go back to the tape later. But that's what I heard. So
No.
explain to people.
Any use that's illegal. Any use that's illegal. I heard exactly what he said. Okay? We can go back and play the recording. I know exactly what he said.
Let's not do it now, but
Thank you.
so I don't know what you're worried about. So the state has all kinds of laws. The federal government. So why? So what's
It's no different than any other city, county, or state. You stay in compliance with what your surrounding agencies are doing. That's what we're doing.
So if they have a complete system going into their house across your ditch, and they do something inside of that house that's illegal, you're gonna deny them that permit to get in?
I didn't understand your question.
You guys issue permits and things for driveways. Is that what you're talking about? Once they put a driveway in and they do something illegal, you're gonna take their right to get in there out?
I don't know that, I don't know that we are going to do that. The city of Bonita Springs can do whatever they need to do to enforce the laws. and we're not trying to be adverse to the city of Bonita Springs. We're only staying in compliance with the very same things that are already on the books in the city of Bonita Springs.
So what's your role?
You've asked many times what our authority is out here.
No, what's
And I'm only would remind you that getting in compliance with the things that you have asked is part of what we're trying to do, period.
So what is your role if I start cutting hair without a license? What's your role in that?
I don't think there's any
I
underlying
don't-
agenda. We're just in compliance with the other compliant.
There's not
Agencies
a
with
direction here at the moment.
I'm trying to understand, so what are you saying you're gonna do with this power? What are you?
There-
We're just saying that
You
we
just had him verify it, but what does that mean?
we'll probably pick up the phone and call code enforcement downtown Bonita like we
I'm gonna
did.
talk about it. Why are we involved with the city of Bonita? What are you gonna do to help the city?
Because
of
we're a
Bonita?
governmental agency. We're just being in compliance with what they're doing.
Are you denying permits for driveways because of that? That's not what it sounded like to me. I'm not hearing that.
I don't think that's what was said. I don't know where you took that from.
So
We
where
were
do
talking about going across your right of way.
Would you like to
Yes.
answer that somehow?
Yes, sir.
Because I
That's
don't-
right.
I can't figure out where he's going.
I'll try to. I think there are maybe one, maybe two, maybe three or four parts to what you're discussing. I'll see if I can unravel them and answer them. The first item is this language makes sure so that if anybody comes to the district in the future, especially if anybody makes an application in the future, they are going to have this language included in the documentation that they receive so that they can see in writing that the district has reserved to itself all authority that was given to the district as a Chapter 298 water control district to control and have authority over the district's right-of-ways, which include, in your case, the district's roads. That's sometimes district water control districts do not have control and authority over the roadways in the district. Other times they do. In your case, your initial enabling action and the bond validation final judgments both confirm that the district has control and authority over the right-of-ways, over the roadways. That's how you were able to make the improvements, the paving of the roadways that occurred with the capital improvement programs that have been done in the past, the two big ones especially. So you have that authority now. We're not adding any authority to the authority the district has had. There are many new people coming to the district, to the area, many new people who may not know everything that has always occurred in the district. And so having language in the documents that they are going to read and review that makes it real clear that the district has authority over the roadways and the district intends to exercise that authority in the best interest of all property owners in the district to prohibit or to address is maybe a better word, to address any illegal uses of property or illegal uses of the district's right-of-way is the whole purpose of this language. The first two words are as clarification. So it starts out saying, we're clarifying. We're not adding to or taking away. We are clarifying the authority that the district has. Why is that important? Because every parcel of land in the district can only be accessed through one method, and that is the district's roadways. And so any impact or illegal use of a parcel of land in the district could, probably does, have an impact on the district's roadways. If someone is, as Supervisor Cellucci described, going from operating a private brewery to operating a retail sales brewery, that's a violation of the City of Bonita Springs Code. That would be an illegal use of the property. And the trucks coming to that property across the district's roads will have an adverse impact on the district right-of-ways, on the district roadways.
That you paid for.
I
And
understand,
so-
but what is your power and what are you gonna do when they do that?
Steve, you have been here a long time, you should know.
No, I don't. They're
You
talking
should,
about-
you've been here forever.
There's a lot of business in there. I think it's gonna affect a
Would
lot
you
of
like me
people.
to
I'm trying
respond? Or would you like me to
Yes.
respond?
Does it
Go ahead, then we're gonna move on.
Okay. All right, so let me see if I can tell you briefly in response to that item. The city of Bonita Springs has a provision in its code that says that we can, not have to, not mandated. And I didn't say anything in this language that creates a new mandate. There are several occasions where I have said the district has the authority, has the ability to take whatever action is necessary, legal action is necessary, to correct or to stop an illegal use of the district's right-of-way or an illegal use of a piece of real estate in the district that adversely affects the district's right-of-way. That could be, it could be whatever the board decides that they believe is in the best interest of the district to do. So the district could sue the property owner. The district could notify code enforcement. The district could, if there is a pending building permit, an open building permit, the district could notify the city building department that there's a violation, and that could affect the building permit or the issuance of the final certificate of occupancy. Those are all actions that the district could take. Are they going to take all of those every time? That's not what this says. This just says, to make it crystal clear, as clarification, again, the first two words of the statement, as clarification, the district has the authority, reserves the authority, and will exercise the authority that it has when there's an illegal use of a parcel of land or when there's an illegal use of the district right-of-way to address that subject.
That's what you did to the kid down on the end of Benson there, right? Or that hit Happy Road.
I think you were.
Gallagher, he's talking.
Was it Brad? I heard you
Oh, you're referring to Papillion Drive.
To Mr. Gallagher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That in itself is not part of what
We got
we're talking
a
about
letter
here.
to the
So.
city about them using it for some illegal
Not
purpose.
exclusively.
I don't know.
That was one of the comments that I made. Yes, I did send that letter to the city that said, please be aware there are illegal uses under your code. We believe there are illegal uses under your code. And I didn't tell them to stop. No. I'll finish my sentence and then you can have your child's. And the letter said, we believe that there are illegal uses on the property. Here's the information that we have. And if there are illegal uses on the property, then the issuance of the building permit, where those uses are not allowed uses under the city's code, we call into question.
What were the questions? What was he doing?
That there was the illegal use of his property.
Doing what though? That's what I'm trying. When you say illegal, that's like a pretty big thing. What was he doing illegal? What he thought he was doing?
My understanding was, and what I was told was that there were retail sales uses being made on that property that, again, are illegal. That's an agricultural zoned property. It allows residential uses in addition to the agricultural uses. It does not allow commercial retail sales on that property.
So got delivery trucks coming and picking up stuff or doing out of their house.
No, that's not what we're saying.
No. So the city, so again, to refer back to what I said earlier, the city then, if we contact the city code enforcement or we contact the city building department and say, here are the facts that we understand, then they, the city, not the district, investigates, determines if there is a violation, and if there is a violation in the city's determination, then the city code enforcement can file a notice of violation with the property owner and take that action forward. We don't do code enforcement. The district does not do code enforcement. Do what, sir?
You just heard me code enforcement.
Can, if it's a violation of a law. Of course, you could turn them into, or anybody could turn them in, really, for that matter. The district does.
You know better.
No,
You know better.
they've already turned somebody in, Don. You want to?
You know better. You know better.
He's right.
Thanks for coming.
So the district can, and in that case, the district did, because that use impacted the district's right-of-way. The district's right-of-way was being used for traffic that it was not intended to be used for if that use
That's not a right of way.
did exist.
That's not a right of way.
Okay, we're after our 3 minutes.
So can I stop?
Yeah.
So is this a surveillance function you're taking on? At what level of surveillance do you have planned for the future?
You know, this is gonna just turn into something that is
Mr. Chairman, I haven't said this before, but if I may, there's an opportunity for public input earlier on the agenda.
Right.
The reason the agenda is set up the way that it is so that we will not get so far into the kinds of discussions that distract from the district business at hand. You've got a full agenda and you added 4 items to an already long agenda. And the conversations that we are having now
They're totally off topic.
could be viewed by some as a distraction over the items that are before the board for action. And so I'll be glad to answer any questions you have, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. If you'll put them in writing, I'll be glad to answer them. I'll be glad to do that. But this is for purposes of completing the business of the district board, not for doing the what if to get us into conversation that frankly takes a lot longer than in most board meetings that I attend.
We should talk about drainage, doing some drainage.
We are talking about drainage, and that's that's one of the problems right now. We've got totally off course of what our job is here, and we'd like to get back on it. And I'm going to give the gentleman at the back of the room, which I don't know who he is, so I'd like you to address yourself.
Sure. For the record, Zach Lombardo, I represent Mr. Gallagher. I just wanted to confirm Mr. Gallagher does not oppose this rule change. I have one clarifying question. The exact wording uses illegal or unauthorized use. Mr. Gallagher requests that just be illegal use, since all the examples are of illegal uses.
We're referring to an item that's being
Yes.
just put.
No, he's talking about this.
this item.
Okay.
He's talking about this item. What? So you're saying that somewhere, I was just looking through, oh, there it is. Okay. And I have no problem with that.
I was unable to hear
Yes.
you for what you
Yeah, I
said.
didn't-
So
I didn't
what
hear
was
his
the
name.
question?
Re-clarify the question. You would like
1,
to
2, 3, 4, 5.
remove unauthorized use?
Yes, sir. So that there's a sentence that currently says, if any parcel of land in the district or the district's right-of-ways are being used for, and I said, an illegal or unauthorized use, including uses in violation of the City of Bonita Springs Land Use Code, the district is authorized to take any and all actions to terminate the illegal use. So later on, I fixed it by just saying illegal use. What Mr. Lombardo is requesting is that I strike the words or unauthorized use at the beginning of that sentence, and I have no problem with that.
I don't either. So,
So, Mr. Chairman, if the board wants to approve the language as amended, I forwarded the first draft to you earlier, and if you want to take action to approve this or to approve it subject to the chair's approval of this final version, then either one of those is fine with me.
Before you take action, Ron,
Yes, ma'am.
can we make sure that when you revise the documents, that we update the documents to include the reinspection fee, the escrow fee that currently are not on the permit application documents?
Correct.
Okay.
We've gone through most of the documents to this point and have edited them and revised them and are preparing them for draft to bring to the board.
Okay.
Perhaps not formally, I don't know. Richard, would we need to bring those formally to the board for approval? Any revisions to the application form?
No, because we made a motion months ago to approve those
Yeah.
edits and changes. You just have to do it.
Okay.
No.
We have a myriad of those completed and we'll provide the board with a package for their review.
Okay, because then we'll need to upload them
And
into
let's
the
move forward.
website.
Upload them to the website.
Yes.
I would put a motion on the floor, we approve that based on the change.
I second the motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Jim approved, John second.
Okay, next item happens to be a settlement agreement with Mr. Gallagher.
Yes, sir. And that is again an item.
I would like to remind everybody that his attorney is here. The conversation is between his attorney and Mr.
Hang on.
Frank.
And you have the settlement agreement in your packet.
I've read it.
Yes, and Mr. Lombardo, as indicated earlier, is here on behalf of Mr. Gallagher. The settlement agreement is a document that Mr. Lombardo and I have been working on off and on for a time. We have come up with the version of the settlement agreement that was provided to you. Mr. Lombardo may have comments about it, and the question before the board this evening is ultimately, do you want to take some action, whether the board wants to take some action to approve the settlement agreement, or if you require other action to occur.
You also have, in addition to the settlement agreement, the email that was sent out, circulated late today, that had a slight change.
And that, as far as I'm concerned, is not something we can do.
If I can just address that briefly.
Pardon?
Can I address that briefly?
You may.
So my client believes that the rule change in the settlement agreement adequately address the concern the district was having with Mr. Gallagher. It provides the district a extensive ability to completely revoke not just his permit, but the quitclaim deed that you all provided him, should he engage in an illegal use as defined by the settlement agreement. So my only request is that the item in paragraph 5 about the, what I'll call the good faith money, the $5,000 held in escrow, not be included, because the cost to my client for violating this agreement as written is extensive.
So is the board's.
Well, I appreciate that sentiment, but I'm not sure where the hard cost for the board would be.
Pardon?
The hard cost for the board on the paving of the road, the getting of the environmental permitting, all of these sort of matters that are going to push this way beyond 5,000 should be violated. So, and the enforcement's going to be handled by the spring, so you're not going to have enforcement costs should that happen. So my respectful request is that if you would consider it, that either you remove the 5,000 escrow from paragraph 5, or that the compromise that was in the email, and I don't know if that came from any of you or Mr. Pringle, is that it be returned over 2 years, assuming compliance with the agreement, be considered as part of this.
You kind of answered your own question as far as I'm concerned. You said the $5,000 would pale in comparison, basically, to having to pave the road and the cost. So it's enough money to keep him honest, so he doesn't do something illegal again, and it gives the board some ability to recognize that he has skin in the game by putting the money up.
And if that's all you're willing to approve, I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, at the end of the day, we're not. To me, what shows that he has skin in the game is that he retained counsel and have been negotiating in good faith this entire time to get to a result. So it's not like there's no money down, and he's going to have significant costs to get in compliance with your post permit. Because as it's structured right now, you're going to have trouble doing that. Just give him a quick claim deed. So this allows you all to clean all this up and have just unquestionable authority to remove this should he cross the line.
Are you saying basically there's issues with the quitclaim deed that we should just rescind it and just start over fresh and just grant him this to the Mariah, and if he violates this, and unlike a lot of the other landlocked properties here, such as the North Medina Bill, where they must utilize the right of way or they can't get to their private property, he has an option. He just doesn't choose to do that option.
And
His options on Papillion, he could deal with the Army Corps of Engineers, he could deal with the EPA, and put a driveway through his property on Papillion. He doesn't want to do it. Okay? And long before this board was here, there was
These
some-
members of this board.
the members
I
of this
understand,
board,
even
okay?
hearing this, and this is
All right.
not what you're doing, I get that.
He has that option.
He has,
It's not this board's problem or the landowners here to have this extensive cost involved dealing with him and what he wants to do with that property. He bought 17 years ago. He should know better that this thing's been here since 1969. And there's people that pay the money, get the access, get the permit on all the regular roads right of ways.
I'd like a clarification of something before it gets out of hand. Mr. Gallagher has only owned the property for about 4 years now.
Okay.
He didn't own it prior to. I was on the board when this agreement was being rationalized out to begin with. I was new on the board that year. And I did not agree with some of the things put into that, although I fought in Mr. Gallagher's behalf to be able to exercise the use of that road. I was disappointed in the fact that he chose to make different choices on his own and into what he did there. So putting me already in that position, I would just share with you that all the rest of the residents of this community have to comply with certain issues concerning their roads, their culverts, their ditches, and nobody's asking him to do anything any differently. So that's
well, I mean, certainly we would appreciate the opportunity to resolve this as you've written it. The only thing I want to put on the record is if the two things. One way to view this is this is some special privilege. It's saving a Cypress head because yes, you can get a DEP permit.
I fought to save this.
So I think that is a good enough reason to support doing it this way. It has nothing to do with the personalities involved.
Then please understand, that's what we would have liked to do. That's what we would probably like to do. We just need him to get on board with us on how we do it.
I understand, and that's why I tried to negotiate this to give you a large enough hammer. If the $5,000 is important, I'm not going to blow the deal over $5,000.
Mr. Pringle, is there any way that we can actually rescind the quitclaim deed as part of this whole settlement process?
There's a reversion interest in the quitclaim.
We'll
deed.
get rid of the $5,000, but we do a reversion of the quitclaim deed. How's that?
Obviously, that is not as desirable, so we will keep
Well,
the
then-
settlement agreement as written. I don't think those are. But
Okay.
to be clear, it's not worth it. I'm not going to push back. I mean, let's be clear that there is exposure on the district in the form of equitable estoppel. You don't just get to pull back a deed that you gave unless there's an ability to prove that through the legal process of.
You want to go to court? Do you want to go to court? Do you want to go to court? Because you're going to get one board member here who will be very difficult to deal with in a courtroom. Okay? I'm tired of this. We're wasting time on this. You got a settlement agreement. If your client's willing to do the settlement agreement, let's do the settlement agreement. End of story.
Thank you for your consideration.
Mr. Pringle.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Were you going to ask me a question?
You're still
Okay.
up, sir.
Yes, sir. So the proposal that is before you is the settlement agreement. Mr. Gallagher's attorney has made a request on behalf of Mr. Gallagher. It is now before the board to decide how you want to approve the settlement agreement. Do you want to approve it in its form as written? Or do you want to approve some other version?
I happen to agree with John on the issue that what was the term, that easement that we gave him?
Right.
Should have never been done to begin with. We don't do that for any other, and technically, as good stewards of the water control district, I would think that we were walking on a very thin line when we gave away the rights to that to begin with, because it belongs to the people of the subdivision, and there are a few other things out here that have been done in the earlier years that have been left for us to clean up. And the sad part is that I would like to resolve this issue, and I think we're really close if the attorney wants to negotiate with you and come to an agreement to resolve that in lieu of the $5,000. Personally, I don't see what Mr. Gallagher's issue is with that is, because he's going to get the use of the road anyway. So he doesn't. The big problem I have with it is that the way it was written was it excluded the property owner's rights to walk on that gravel. And I don't know how that ever got in there. But that 60 feet width for that easement, which crosses the canal system and over to the other side, is what happened. He was giving a 15-foot right to use a section of that, which was supposed to border his property line. It didn't actually touch us. I don't think it does today, but because I'm sitting here and not out there looking at it, I don't want to tell you that it doesn't touch it, but as I remember looking at it before, but that's not material anyway. The point being is that this property actually belongs to the Water Control District and to the people of the subdivision, and I thought we walked a very tight line when that got approved. I was new on the board, and my signature's probably on it. I don't remember that it was an aye vote though, but my signature's probably on it, and I won't deny that. But I fought for Mr. Gallagher in trying to help him out because I did not want to see that swamp area mitigated when there was already a hard surface in place. It did not make sense to me. And I think that we're really close to solving this if we can get the attorney to work with us on that. And I'm going to only ask because I don't think we're going to settle it at this meeting because we don't have the documents in place. Steve, I can't see when you raise up like that. And so it's between the attorney and our attorney. It's not really up for discussion here tonight. This is a legal issue going on, and it has to be dealt with between the board, our attorney, and Mr. Gallagher's attorney.
Well, there is a draft agreement, and if you approve the draft agreement, then my client signs it, then we're done.
Yeah, but the thing is, we're not in compliance totally with the way it's written. It has to have a couple changes. Mr. Cellucci brought up that we would like to have back that document that gives him the right to keep people off that 15 feet, which no other place out here has that.
No other place on the line.
No other piece of property on the Water Management District's uses has that in it. And how that ever got written up and put into it is beyond me, but I don't agree with it. And I would be willing to sign off on the $5,000 amount of money as an escrow in trade for that. And that puts him going right home where he wants to be.
I have a question. Shortly after we came on board as district's engineers, this was one of the first applications that we reviewed. Mm-hmm. And we rejected and denied that application on the basis that there was a request for a gate in excess of a district gate, which
correct.
Those
were all additional things that he immediately began to do almost before the ink dried.
But that was part of the application, and that was the basis for our denial, was it precluded the district's ability to go in and operate and maintain the canal system by placing that gate up at Papillion.
Well, he placed logs over the road. He did numerous things to block it off immediately, like I said, before the ink almost dried on the paper. Along with posting signage and stuff that was very abusive to the people out here about if you walk on this territory, you're going to be, I forget all of the words that are on. I did take pictures of it all, so it's there someplace. But nonetheless, that's what the issue is.
But the question being is, how does this settlement agreement affect the district's ability to operate and maintain a critical part of our drainage system?
We're not asking for a gate. There's no gate.
Right. No, and Mr. Chairman, if I may. In answer to Mr. Edenfield's question, the quitclaim deed that was originally given
Can you hear good back there?
Yeah,
was to extinguish the public's use of the 15-foot wide strip. And so the district's ability to use the 15-foot wide strip was not extinguished, and you can still access that strip for maintenance purposes for district usage. The public's right to drive down that road. And the reason that at that time that the deed extinguished the public's right to go down that road is because of the additional traffic that would occur on a road that was not built for public traffic. It was not paved. The idea is every place that you're going to have a paved road, it's going to be because traffic significantly increases. When somebody pulls a permit for a residence, then they have to pay to their driveway connection point because the road goes from very little or no traffic, except the district traffic, to substantial traffic coming and going to the house.
I would have a question for you.
So that was the idea, was that the extinguishment was not of all of the district's bundle of rights, but rather just the public's right to go on that 15-foot strip. That's all. With the reversion that if the district ever said, you know what, we want to make it a public road, then and improve it to the level needed to handle the public traffic, then the quitclaim deed, the benefit would extinguish. The district had the right to revert or a reversionary interest in the properties in the public use element of the district's bundle of rights to reestablish that if the district created the improvements in that 15-foot strip to address that additional public usage. If the district does that, then the quitclaim deed extinguishes automatically. The district can do that unilaterally. I think that answers the question that you had. My recollection again of the facts way back at the beginning of Mr. Gallagher's request was a real simple one. And it kind of morphed into other things along the way, as I recall. And that's kind of sort of when the trust issues started coming. And then he started doing other things with the property that were clearly beyond any boundaries of anything that anybody had ever intended, with the gates and the fence and all those things. And that's when the ox got in the ditch bad. And so Mr. Gallagher's initial intended use, and the reason that we generated the document that we did, was to give him a very limited ability to use that driveway for access, essentially for his residential use only. And ag uses, currently zoned uses, but nothing else, and that was the problem. That's a limited traffic. That's not a lot of traffic.
I like the right-of-way standards manual. I'll finish up at this point. Also requires, along with the pavement, either a D-type curb or a guardrail along the canal. Will this agreement affect that requirement in any way?
That requirement has not ever been addressed. The only change was to essentially to get rid of the pavement requirement. Was the intention. So until now, there had not been any mention of that additional guardrail installation to occur. So
it really was. It's in the manual. It's a standard safety requirement, whether it's a concrete curb on the uphill side of a paved surface. The intent there is to keep you from driving off into the canal, to hit something solid before that, whether it's an 8-inch high concrete curb or whether it's a physical guardrail. It's purely a health, safety, welfare issue.
yeah. Yes, sir. And
It's your right of way, why don't you put it up?
Pardon?
If the guardrail's on your right of way, why don't you put it up?
Because it's not an issue with traffic until somebody extends the roadway.
I would like to say something, and this sort of changes the subject matter just a little bit. But on these back streets, halfway across every street, when they did the water system here, they put fire hydrants. This district chose, for whatever reason, to put gates in halfway across, sometimes not exactly halfway across, where the fire hydrants are obstructed from these gates, etc. So the ISO controls your insurance costs on your houses out here, which regulates your fire districts. Your fire districts are required to have a certain amount of fire flow at within 500 feet of every structure. When these are obstructed and put where they are, then later on what does have to happen, or I'm going to say earlier on when the gates were put in and when the roads were built, we were very limited on our construction out here. There were a third of the houses that we have today, and the fact is that there were very little or no houses on the perimeter roads. And now houses are being built at the ends of the streets and on the perimeter roads, and the fire department, there's going to be a day of reckoning when they're going to come along. Now, I talked to the chief about this, and he didn't seem to think it was very important. I'll tell you, I was a fire chief. It isn't in his jurisdiction to decide whether or not what's important. What they do is they pull his rating, and when they pull a rating out of Bonita Springs and raise it to a 10 from a 1 or a 3, you'll find out on your insurance costs what that does mean. So there's a time when now these fire hydrants that weren't very important years ago are becoming important every day, and the size of the houses that are being built are changing that. So that's a contention that we're not talking about here today. But when you want to talk about putting up gates and blocking roads and making them inaccessible to the emergency services, that becomes another issue that's not even in our control. But we do have to comply with it. We're just waiting to get caught.
And so yes, sir. And there are locations like that, and we've had discussion about the gates. We've had discussion about the district's gates, which are permitted along the perimeter.
Right.
And we've talked about the fact that the district, as it grows, as it becomes more populated, as more parcels are developed, that additional changes could occur in the uses of the perimeter roads and in those gates and in the existence of other gates. And all of that relates back to what I have said before. The board has to decide in exercising the board's discretion about what's in the best interest of the district as a whole and the residents, the group of residents as a whole. To connect that back to the question Mr. Edenfield had earlier, I believe Morris Depew said, if you, Mr. Gallagher, are going to access your property in this 15-foot strip without paving, then here's what's going to be required for the district to issue the driveway connection permit. I think that happened. I didn't see that document, but I think that happened. If that happened, whatever Morris Depew said the requirements were, I believe are the requirements. And so that may impact that guardrail as a requirement. As an example, if there's not any public use of that strip, but there is private traffic using that strip, then Morris Depew may have decided that a guardrail is not required yet.
Okay.
I don't know.
We can go back and look.
Yes, sir. You
And
should be
see
able
what
to.
documents available.
Yes, sir. You should be able to find that information that Morris Depew generated to see what is required. And so in the way that this settlement agreement is structured is that if there is a violation, then Mr. Gallagher will have to come back and his right-of-way permit will expire, and he'll have to come back and get another right-of-way permit that could include paving. So that's the other reason I mentioned the Morris Depew permit is it was generated in response to this decision. So that would change too.
With what you just said was a question I had asked earlier today, and that is that the engineer should have the final authority over whatever improvements are made on that road. Our engineer today, Morris Depew, is no longer that engineer. I'm not talking about changing anything. The same standards that Morris Depew would have required, just that the engineer should oversee them.
And so though, and again, the document that was
Good
previously.
night, thank you for coming.
We hoped we were going to be finished before now, but well,
Some folks can't stay out tonight.
Can I come with you?
I think they're going to that new brewery
Yeah.
off of Pavilion or whatever. But the intention of that document was to extinguish the public use of, and that's it, the public use of that 15-foot wide strip. So whatever the engineer requires or says is required to get a driveway connection permit, in light of the fact that the traffic volume is lower and therefore a gravel road instead of a paved road is acceptable, that was the goal of all effort. And I don't know what Morris Depew generated in terms of a permit requirements at that time.
We can go back and certainly take a look and see if we can find if they did provide any kind of guidance or limitations on the improvements.
Well, one of the things that happened back then was that as gravel even got dumped on it, it wasn't leveled out with a compactor or anything that it should have been for a road use or even a good driveway. And it was spread.
We hope that would have been in MDA standards.
Well, I'm only saying that it wasn't.
Right.
So
Never
therefore,
done.
even in that, there were just all of these little things that did not follow through to be in as a good neighbor in doing the things that should have been done. So I would hope that as we finish this evening, I don't know how the board's going to vote, but I would hope that if we don't come to a conclusion, that if we could open a line of communications with him, that maybe we could resolve this issue.
Well, and just to clarify, this agreement does not include language that says that the prior deed is going to be extinguished. It says that the right-of-way permit will be extinguished and he will have to come in and comply with the requirements of the district. Now, Mr. Lombardo and I have had a number of discussions about what that means and if anything needs to change in this document. If you say we need to have language that makes it clear, if this right-of-way permit extinguishes, then he's going to have to come back and pave the road. I think we kind of sort of say that, but if you need me to make sure, positively sure, and Mr. Lombardo's standing here, and if he objects, we can address it. But I'm trying to find it real quick.
If you take note at the end of Lucy Lane, it's paved all the way to the next property. If you take the end of Henson Drive, it's paved halfway across toward the gate to the next property. This is all properties that run parallel to his on Mariah Lane.
Yes.
And then we have the extension running on the other side of Catskill that runs all the way around to a dead end area there, which is all paved. Again, because there's multiple houses along that roadway, okay?
And I'm sorry, I can't remember everything that I do. Just kidding. So, but I do say, that was some of the language that I added, was to say that Gallagher's, that if the permit is revoked, and it's not just an easy, we get to exercise, or possibly, and I don't want to give Mr. Lombardo an opportunity to have a case of indicating that we've abused our discretion. So there's a clear pathway to saying what, and it's not in your hands, it is in code enforcement's hands of the city of Bonita Springs. Again, I wanted to create an opportunity so that it would be balanced and fair, but also so that in the future, if it is revoked, nobody can come back and say that it was this board abusing its discretion that ended up in the revocation. It's going to be the special magistrate or the city code enforcement folks who are going to say there was a violation, not you deciding that and maybe being accused, although I'm sure nobody would ever accuse the board of wrongdoing, but rather that a third party will make the decision on whether a revocation trigger has occurred. But if a revocation trigger does occur, then it will revoke the right-of-way permit, and also the previous document, Mr. Chairman, that you referred to will also be revoked, and then all of the current permit requirements will have to be satisfied to acquire a driveway connection permit.
What I'm going to say isn't meant to be serious. I'm just going to say it. It seems to me, like from what I've heard you read and say, that if this board voted tonight to open that gate between Penson and Papillion and declare it an open road, that gets negated right now. And it doesn't require anything else.
You have the reversionary interest to do that. There is language in there that talks about the district.
Changing of the use of
Yes,
the road.
sir.
And we declared it an open road, it negates that contract.
That would also, declaring it a public road, I think would also include the district doing something to,
We run a road grader over it.
to improve the road to where it can be used by.
But I'm just saying that
That might be it.
a secondary option could be something simple as that. I'm not advocating we do that. I
No.
was not in any way, that's why I said that ahead of time.
Yes, sir. And that's part of the reason that with this language, again, as I said a minute ago, the goal is to create a clear path for determination of whether there is a revocation or not, so that this board and this district is not subject to claims and litigation.
But that action would reverse his entitlement to that property.
The
If I may, it would revoke, it trigger the quitclaim deed,
right.
but not the right of way.
And that's also true. So the right of way, the connection permit, would still be in effect to the extent it's all done and the certificate of occupancy is issued. Then that's also true.
But
So, but
the
the
use
road-
of
but
it could still require payment.
It could still be that would be arguable, and if you say argue it, I will. But I think there would be. I expect Mr. Gallagher would take an
I know.
contrary view.
And again, I said, I'm not advocating doing
Yes,
that stuff.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, hey,
Yes.
there are simpler ways out of something.
Yes, there are, and that's why the reversionary language was included in the quitclaim deed. If the board decides to make it a public road, then you can do that, and that's all it requires. That is true. But then the fallout of that, we would deal with.
But there's nobody out there, including us, that wants cars running between
Right.
roads on the perimeter roads. Okay, so
Correct.
that's
You
Not
guys are
covered with it.
frightening us back here. I don't know what you guys.
Well, what?
You're frightening us. Dude, where are we? What place are we living in? You're revoking things. This is right. This is such a tyrannical discussion.
When I started this part was not open to the general public. It was between the attorney, our attorneys, and the board. So we're going to keep it that way.
So, Mr. Chairman, you have the item, the settlement agreement is before you. You've had comments made by Mr. Gallagher's counsel. We've had a lot of discussion. Unless there are further comments by Mr. Gallagher's counsel, it's before the board for decision making.
Okay. I would just like to make the thing that I don't know that we can agree to this. I don't know about John, but I'm only one person. I would like to resolve something with him and get this moving forward and get it off the plate. But he's going to have to give some to get it done. So
What's your objection to the settlement agreement? I don't know that we've heard that. Have you heard that?
No, well, so I think though,
John's comment.
so with the $5,000 contribution,
thoughts?
then are you okay with that?
Well, I'm going to go back to what Mr. Lombardo suggested. The quitclaim, the way he was discussing it, it was not that value or there is value to it, okay, I'm countering a negotiation proposal to say, remove the $5,000 deposit, but make the legal process to revoke the quitclaim deed. So he has his right-of-way access based on the permit to access, and we're just acknowledging he's going to go down Mariah to get into his property. No more of this 15 feet here or there, just goes down there. And I'm going to make a suggestion that the engineer does an assessment of that area of the road from Papillion at the end down Mariah to his property. Assess the road now. Take measurements, do some shots and grades, and a year from now go back and assess it again. And if there's a depression and the road's starting to crumble and go into the canal, then we have to discuss paving. Okay? So you can get a settlement tonight if we negotiate a little bit. Okay? Because I will vote then for a settlement based on some of those terms and conditions. I can't speak for the rest of them.
Well, I would support John's without a vote right now.
I agree with
I'd
that.
be okay with that.
Okay, so that would be to modify the settlement agreement to
Remove the
extinguish.
5,000.
Okay,
We'll put language in there that we're going to revoke the quitclaim. Okay?
but
And
the
then he just
permits.
has his permit application
Okay,
to get down Mariah.
He receives permission
He
from the
received
board.
permit from the board to go down and get that. But the only caveat is, I believe the engineer should take an hour's time to go down, bring the instrument down, do a site grade from Papillion down to the entrance where he wants his permit for the break into the property, and begin a grade level of that, and then a year from now, assess it. If there's too much traffic going down there, it starts impacting damage the road, then we have to figure out, do we need to pave it?
And drainage.
And drainage and impact, yes.
I think that would be summarized as doing a compliance inspection to ensure the road is still stable as we sit today, because it's been quite some time since it started. Go in and do an assessment. And Mr. Roberto, I apologize, I'm not totally familiar with the status of where the permit application may have left off at.
Yeah, it's not done.
There was a bit of transition between Marston Depew and RMEC. Do you know what, there are 5 inspections, do you know at what point those inspections stopped, or was
I
it?
believe that the balance of the inspections remain. So
Pardon?
I believe the balance of the inspections remain. So it's going to be coming
So
before you for
it's
review.
been made all the way through final
No,
inspection?
it has not made it to the final.
Okay,
So you're going to have to go out and make that inspection. So
Right.
presumably it's, because this came up earlier about whether it's compacted properly. If it's not, he has to do that as written.
right.
And so that's going to happen.
So if we've got, still have to do a substantial completion inspection, we would go out, check the compaction, check just to make sure the widths, lengths, et
Yes.
cetera, are all in compliance with the permit application. And assuming that that is, then we would issue a final acceptance of the permit based on the findings of that substantial completion inspection. And then we could certainly go back in a year, or whenever the board wishes us to,
A year would be a good time.
and go back and take a look and make sure it's holding up and it's still in compliance with what was approved.
It's a clarifying question. If the quitclaim deed was revoked, is the guardrail required from your perspective? The guardrail, if the quitclaim deed is revoked, is the guardrail required?
I believe
It is not on either the end, when you go to the end of Curlew and you make the left-hand turn, I do not believe there's a guardrail running parallel with that paved
Not
area. Pardon?
Not Curlew. Catskill.
Catskill, my apologies. Okay.
There's another property.
And I wasn't talking about Catskill either, I was talking about Pinson Drive. At the end where you turn left and the pavement was put in by the district at the time of the road, the guardrail, I don't believe starts till after the end of the pavement.
I believe that there are a number of locations throughout the district where we have
Lucy.
perimeter roads that do not have.
Lucy Lane is the same way at the end. So,
I'm sure there are many of them
okay, so
that do
that's,
not have the requisite guardrail. However, because I made a mistake yesterday, doesn't mean I need to make a mistake today.
Okay.
The code says.
You were in charge.
The code says thou shalt.
Okay.
It really doesn't. It's an either or. You can put a curb in or a guardrail. And it's, irrespective of the previous district engineer's application of that, from my perspective, it's a significant health, safety, welfare issue to be able to have some barrier between somebody zipping around that end of that road into a much narrower road that is Mariah or Busy Bee or Bonitaville, and then particularly with the canal right there adjacent to
Well,
it.
we've had fatalities in that canal over the years,
So,
and with cars rolling over in it. So it does, what are you saying, is substantiated by fatalities out here. And I know of at least 3 that occurred while I've lived out here, so.
It would certainly be a preference, and the code does require it. So I'm not to say that that it exists all throughout the district, because it doesn't. But the applications that we've approved since we've been on board have required that in accordance with the guidelines that we inherited. Do you feel like that's a huge issue for your client?
I don't know why you speak with them about this.
Right.
I'm just taking notes.
It would actually be for your client's safety, because obviously if he's going to drive down there accessing for him or his family at night, there's not well lit in this area, and you go over and there's no guardrail there, you could actually drive over to the canal. So it'd actually be to his benefit for the district to spend the money to put the guardrail in there for his protection of driving down to that right of way.
So if the district's doing it, we have no objection.
I never said he would do it.
Okay.
Well, it's typically incumbent upon the applicant.
Okay. We'll compromise in that.
Okay. I will bring back an agreement next month then. My only question on the 1-year check-in is, could we have a call to talk about what the standards are, so I know how to explain that to my client from an expectation standpoint? The obvious concern is, if there aren't clear standards as to what it needs to do, we come back, we do all of this, we come back in a year, and you just decide, no, we need to pivot.
I can work through the board or through Mr. Pringle to first off review permit 398 and
Sure.
let's see what the requirements were placed upon it. And then if you need copies of the application forms or the guide or the driveway use manual, we can certainly make those available.
No, I've got copies. I just want to make sure that
Okay.
we have clear standards. I appreciate your time. And
Thank you.
Make sure you get the latest version or we're going to change it. So just
Fair.
Mr. Lamar, do you want to give Ron one of your cards?
I'll get it.
Yes, we'll get it. We'll get it.
I'd be more comfortable working directly through you on that. So.
Sure. Yes, sir.
So this is tabled?
So I believe it is, with the recommendations, suggestions by the board. I believe then, Mr. Chairman, the proper action, because it's on the business agenda, would be to continue it to the July board meeting, and we will continue to try.
I'm going to go ahead and put a motion on the floor at this time to continue it so we can move on with business. We have a lot more to cover tonight,
I'll second.
and we've got carried away. So,
Second that.
Thank you.
done.
Done.
You second.
Second.
Oh, Jim did. Jen
I
first,
seconded.
and we're 3-0.
Supervisor Finazzo seconded, so
Yes.
unanimously approved.
Everybody said something. We're good.
Okay. All right, policy procedures.
How many more properties out there are gonna have this problem on this back road like that?
You know, I would only say this to you for a quick moment. Mr. Gallagher was a specific problem only because he's the only one with the swamp at the front. But as you do bring that up, I would only continue to say we have, and I'm not sure of the number, but I believe 5 pie-shaped lots starting at Catskill down, and all of them being on the left-hand sides of the roads. Each one of the roads have that pie shape to them. How does it affect them? They were given an access point by the water control district when the properties were paved, when we paved the roads out here, they were all given a place to connect their driveways to it. Mr. Gallagher's happens to go through a swamp. I was on his side to defend the right to save the swamp. I was not and I don't want to let's not go into nitpicking
No, I'm just curious. I thought there was more.
because
writing letters to property owners.
no, there's only the one that is affected by it with a swamp at the front. And his driveway connection would run right into that, which would have required mitigation. And when you talk to Mr. Gallagher, what are they charging now? $20,000 per quarter acre to mitigate?
More than that.
Okay, so right off the bat, this board is saving Mr. Gallagher that kind of money to keep him from having to mitigate a swamp. So we were working with him, and it seems that he can work with us. Okay? So thank you for your question, but yeah, there's only like 5 of those lots. And I'm sure as we continue the dead end roads out here that are halfway across Bonita Bill, these questions will come up over the next few years because I already see survey stakes out there. Okay? So we will probably be having these discussions again. Okay. I make a motion that we move on. We're done with that. Okay. Policy and procedures update. And I would assume, John, this is yours?
Is this with the?
Yes, sir, I think so.
For the.
It is. For the meeting agenda, there were 2
Yes.
items, the meeting agenda change, format change that is implemented. I changed the board manual to address that. And then the other change related to the duties of the treasurer and the manager that were described in the
Job descriptions.
Yes, sir. And then the last part of all of that was there were, and this goes under the employee job description section later, I had sent out previously 3 job descriptions, one for the manager, one for the treasurer, and a third one for the secretary, with the expectation that you may take those secretaries' responsibilities and divide them, or either place them all on one, or with the treasurer's duties, or separate them, like the public records custodian responsibility. You may want to separate off, but ultimately you may end up with 2 job descriptions, not 3. But this matter is related to the change in the board meeting agenda and the change in the policies related to the treasurer's functions. And then the third thing was the credit card usage of by the district of a district credit card. Those were the 3 things that were a part of this item.
Okay.
I vote we adopt the changes, and once so adopted, Audrey or Chris will upload the new policy procedures. Who has the master Word document? You? Who has? Because I have it.
Well, you have it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And once it's adopted, then you're gonna.
Carolyn will
you
do
can
a
send
great
me,
job.
Or Audrey now has Adobe Pro,
Yes.
right?
Correct.
So she can convert it to an Adobe file and then upload it.
Okay, yes, sir. So I'll get it to the district in a form that you all can do something with. But it'll be the red line version where I made the changes that I sent out with the changes to the policies and procedures manual.
And then you'll just hit accept all changes and then make it a PDF.
Yes. Right, which I can also do is send it as a
Why don't you just do
PDF.
that?
I'll just send it as a PDF then.
So,
All right.
will we want to show that it is a revision of the original
Yes.
one?
We'll
Yes.
say
And date
updated
it.
at the bottom of the page, updated on the
Pursuant
site.
to the
Yeah.
Records Act issues, we need to actually put a footer in this new document with the date and revisions and say Rev 2 policy procedures. Can you do that?
Yes, sir.
So
That's
the district
normal.
attorney will put a footer in there, put the date, revision 2.
Right. Update about board action,
Yeah.
so and so, date June 19, and then yes, so we'll do that. But it's with the changes that I proposed in the version that I sent out to the board members earlier.
Okay. Motion is on the floor.
I motion that we accept the changes and Put it on the website.
Second.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, contracts on. Okay. Contracts, canal and perimeter road cleaning, roadway trimming, culvert cleaning,
Auditor.
auditor. Okay, so this is open for discussion by the board.
Do we have any contracts that we need to review or talk
We
about?
do not have any contracts.
Okay, we need to let out bids for these projects and hopefully by the September meeting have those.
I did receive copies of Gerald's former contracts. Did you have any contracts, any of the other contracts? What I was looking to do was try and compile it.
Yeah, we'll need Tony's contract, Tony's,
Contract
I gave-
thrashers
I gave you Tony's.
You got Tony's?
I gave you Tony's.
and thrashers.
I don't have anything for Thrasher.
yeah, Thrasher wasn't under contract for doing this work.
What I haven't seen is one for a mechanical cleaning of the canals.
I don't have one.
And that's because there are certain things that have not been done in numerous years. So
I may have been waiting on something on a unicorn then.
So what we need to adopt and start doing, and that's one of the issues, is that we want to make sure we bid these jobs out. We get at least three requests from each company for bids. And we tried to spread those out after in the past few years, so we didn't have to contend with them all at the same meeting, okay? So starting in September through how many months it takes, we'll do one at each meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So we have time to talk about
The current contracts, or the contracts you've had historically, have been for simply vegetation removal along the primary
it.
canal.
Brown did some of that.
For vegetation and maintenance of the roadside swales, mowing and trimming to a limited extent, and then herbicides. Those are the only three.
Yeah, Brown normally got the herbicide person in place.
No, actually,
Pardon?
no, Brown did not do that.
He didn't?
No.
Who did that?
Gerald,
I spoke with the guy, and Brown told me about who he was, and I was of the understanding.
we used Gerald Blankenship of ABC Lawn Care to do the herbicide spraying.
Where'd he come out here from?
At one point it was Copeland. I don't know where he is now.
Okay,
But
I
he-
know that's become quite a specialized business,
It is.
but also speaking with Mr. Brown, who does the front ponds, he indicated to me recently that there's multiple people that do it. He's got names of those kind of people. So we'll just have to get in contact with a number of them to get a fair price on what it costs to do that. I don't know organizations like Tony's Lawn Service has the licenses to do that. If he does,
I got contractor who can do it.
okay.
Can we do a bid then?
We need a bid for doing that. So work with Mr. Edenfield, and it would probably be advantageous to the board to have one contractor that does a lot of these issues, more so than breaking it up into a dozen little ones.
A lot of your lawn care services like Juniper, Tony, help me here. Juniper and Brightview, they all have licensed herbicide.
I got contractor who got license to do.
You have to have a license to do it.
Yes.
Land Care does.
Okay. So, and then as far as the trimming of the sides of the roads and stuff, I think we should reach out to companies like Lewis and other companies that do this for a living. Tony, again, you're welcome to bid the job. If you've got the capabilities of trimming the limbs back to the property lines, then you're welcome to bid that also. But I think we ought to reach out and get a fair market value on what those jobs cost, so even Tony will have a fair idea. We don't want him to starve out there, We don't want him to underbid the job so bad that he can't make a living, but we also don't want to be the other direction. So we have to have a fair market value of what these jobs cost.
So, Ron, did those contracts I give you the scope of work that John's been so careful in insistent on being identified within these contracts?
It's got to start.
Okay, so it needs improvement.
There's specific details that are still a bit unclear on the extent of herbiciding.
Are we capable of at least putting an RFQ and RFP for the clean out and that scope of work?
Well, the clean out is confusing to me because if we're simply removing vegetation,
I think we're thinking about clean out of the pipes under everybody's
But
driveway.
while you were discussing that, it was brought up to me today when I was talking to a contractor about it. The exotics that have only been trimmed in the past years need to be taken out. We don't need to pay the guy next year to trim the same exotic plant.
right.
And that's what's been going on, is we're not resolving the problem, we just keep spending their money.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're gonna do this, let's take out the exotics and maintain the others.
We can certainly take them out in our right of way, and
Yes.
that was part of the perimeter focus, was to remove all of the exotics from the right of way. That just cuts out all your Brazilian pepper, acacia, which is a real
Horrible.
pest right now.
Right, so,
Far worse than Melaleuca ever was. But addressing those issues, but as far as trimming, you really can't encroach upon the adjoining property.
we're not talking about getting outside our property.
Right away on.
Now, you can still herbicide that exotic.
But that's why Lewis Tree Service and the other ones do that stuff, cut half a tree, because they won't get on private property. So just follow that procedure.
Okay, so the only other contract then we're in position to sign tonight is the renewal agreement with Tuscan and Company for the next 3 years of auditing services. John, you had requested that I
I
contact.
asked if they would discount, and they said they won't, so it is what it is.
So are you all in agreement to re-sign up for another 3 years with Tuscan and Company?
I would put a motion on the floor that we do that, and we
I second the motion.
Okay?
Aye.
Okay, so then I just need you to sign. There's 2 pages on each paperclip to sign?
Motion carries, by the way.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on while we're waiting on that to be taken care of. And Hurricane Ian damage issues, resolution, repairs, FEMA payments.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's any more discussion on that after Peter spoke and I opened up with the chair's report. Is there anything else that we need to talk about on that, or are we good? I know that you have one set of paperwork you have to get in order for FEMA. I talked with Dale. I had a meeting with him last Thursday afternoon, and he left me 2 items that need to be taken care of, one from Peter and one from you.
Right. We reached, on Dale's guidance, we reached out to both the Army Corps of Engineers and the USDA, NRCS. We received back from the Army Corps an email that essentially said, not in our ballpark. So we're clear of the Army Corps having any interest in our FEMA projects.
And was it one of those, the confirmation of the maintenance on the canal system?
We've got to go through the USDA, and I did speak with a young lady in Royal Palm last Thursday, and have received a package from her that I need to review and get her some information back and determine whether or not we're jurisdictional for their interest or whether we qualify for any of their programs. If we do qualify for the USDA funding, then we would divert from FEMA with those projects and we would move over to the USDA and work through their funding program for reimbursement.
Okay.
But as we get through that information, we'll keep you apprised of that.
Okay, make sure that we get that done and we get that paperwork forwarded to our new FEMA representative.
Yes,
Okay? All right. We're going to move on from there. Employee job descriptions. We've already talked about that, I believe.
Yes, I said I would leave it. It's part of the manager's report, but it fits into this part of the agenda, so I wanted to address it now. Chris and I, we looked at the draft that was submitted by Mr. Pringle regarding those job descriptions, and we've come to an agreement that I will take over the records keeping portion of that and also handle the phone calls to the district. So I'll be taking over those two functions.
And webmaster.
I'm sorry?
And webmaster.
And yeah.
We're going to put her phone number up in neon and come over the railroad track.
So, and also that we were looking at file cabinets, and there, believe it or not, you think these little thin metal containers, $300
You know, there's sort of an there is sort of an irony to that.
Go ahead.
On govdeals.com, the same place we dispose of equipment,
Yeah.
there are other cities who have fireproof ones that they're trying to dispose of and can't get rid of them. So we can probably buy them for $5, $10, $15 if we wanted to go get them.
Yeah.
The law
So-
also allows them to make a donation to you as another government agency.
It does.
So I did actually find, I'm a bit of a conservative and I like to save money wherever I can, so I got a really nice locking file cabinet 4-drawer for $25 on Facebook. It works, and it even came with some hanging folders and all the inserts. So that's
Thank
where
you.
I'm looking to go. I just saved us $275.
You got accolades from us. Thank you.
So also regarding the records keeping, I am enrolled in the records management seminar registration that's going to be held in Venice in November.
Okay.
So after I have had that class, and in the interim, Chris and I are working diligently in collaboration with what goes on here, and I appreciate your help, Chris, but it's after I have that class, that's when I will start to take over the records.
Okay, very good. Anything else? I'm going to move you along here. It's getting
Stack of
late.
20s.
Now the cost was what, like $90 or how much?
Yes, the class is $90. I put it on my P card.
Okay.
But that is something that we really haven't had our arms around.
Is there
I
an
think, in a long
overnight
time.
stay with that, or is it one-day class?
No, I chose Venice because it's close. I mean, I can be there in an hour.
Okay, so it's $90 plus mileage and food. So, okay.
So then, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
so it sounds like, based upon the discussions between the treasurer and the manager, that with the secretary's description, public records go to the manager, phone calls go to the manager, website maintenance goes to the manager, and then
Chris goes to the beach.
the treasurer also does the meeting minutes, recordings, and the preparation of the written meeting minutes for adoption by the board at the later meetings.
And there's a transition period.
Yes.
We have a transition period
Yes.
that's occurring, so.
All right. Were there other parts of the secretary's description to divide out, or?
Unfortunately, when I did time for the position, it was not, it was going to be worked through. So, we have little kinks and we'll address them as they come up.
All right.
Okay.
All
Good
right.
job, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay. So in the Florida statutes, the Chapter 298 has some references to some sections of the secretary of the district being the one that keeps the records. Excuse me, not the hard records, but keeps the meeting records and those things. So I think that'll be divided up, and I can talk to the two of you to make sure who's doing what, and that's
We are sharing files equally.
okay.
So our computer systems are mirror image. So everything that she has, she'll take care of what she normally does. But after the November seminar, I will have physical possession of the paper documents as well as equal mirror image documentation and record keeping that we have on computers.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Are we ready to move forward?
Yes, sir.
So we have to approve them.
Yes, sir. You
I put
didn't.
a motion on the floor to approve it as stated.
Okay.
Second motion.
Aye.
Motion carries. Streamlining the website. I believe that's going to be John.
Yeah, unfortunately, the overhead projector's not working because I was going to show landowners here the new website, but You can go do it on your own. The sign is out there. It says www.SCEWCD.org. But basically, we're now complying with the auditor's findings that we now have a compliant website pursuant to being a government entity, as opposed to just like hosting a website. We also are compliant now with emails that are cloud-based storage, backup storage that are compliant also with government regulations. The hosting company does a lot of government districts, including water districts all over the country. So it's a very good hosting platform. And so that's basically complete from a few months ago. I'm sorry that the projector's not working, but I could have shown people.
Okay, it's really sad. Next meeting, I'll reassure you the projectors will be working.
Yes.
Where we're going to be having our next meeting. So,
The website is nice.
Do you like it?
You've seen
One
it?
thing I noticed that I couldn't find on there that's required is the link to the news press.
He's still working on all of these, and it's
So
still.
I
we're gonna-
saw that.
Okay.
We'll keep updating things as a living document.
That's
Basically,
better than the old one. Also, on the old one, you don't have on the front page the new website. You have to go in to contact us to find that new.
It's on the latest happenings in the district,
latest happenings, yeah.
and it's also on the top of the latest happenings. And then you're right, it's on the top of the contact us.
Front page where people go there right away to go.
Well, I don't know what pages people go to. In other words, when I open
it
it,
opens up onto the blog spot with the blue, and you have to hit
Yeah.
home.
I know, but when you open it up, what page are you on?
The one that's blue and it says.
I know, but what page does it say?
Blog
When I do it, it says contact us. It doesn't. It used to be the home page.
Apple, so maybe it's different.
Yeah.
It's in contact us, but unless somebody, I'm just thinking somebody that doesn't know they've got the new site, when they go there, unless they're looking around, they're not gonna see.
Well,
it.
I think Chris put up on the old blog spot, the new website is here at this new location. Here's the
It'd
new
be better
link.
if on the front page is the old one.
Okay.
Well, that's why I'm trying to figure out what your front page is.
Yeah.
You want me to show you?
Sure.
It's got the sign.
That's the problem with the old system, isn't it, Steve? You
What?
just couldn't. You
No,
couldn't.
the
You
new,
couldn't
the
walk
old
through
one.
anything.
So the old one
Yeah.
was just a
'Cause-
clear with the blue on it.
Yeah.
See, when I open it up, it opens up on
Steve
contact
is
us.
saying, and what he's saying is, on the old website, we need to put the new website address. I want to commend you. What a great job you did.
You did amazing. A lot of time, hours, and effort.
And I think Chris is putting out a notice on the old website after September 30th, the end of our fiscal year. The old site's going down, and the new site's the only one that's active.
This is the home page.
Okay.
All right, so I can put it on there.
Sort of like the new millennium. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, you're taking care of that, we can move forward.
Yep.
Cancel CenturyLink, landline.
So we haven't canceled yet because we're waiting for Streamline to port over the existing phone number to the new system. They sent us a really nice digital phone, like you see in a Fortune 100 company. It's really cool, forwarding all kinds of features and everything. And that's going to reside at Audrey's residence for hosting of the phone once it's ported over. And then when we do that, we're going to cancel CenturyLink. And so basically just let everybody know the cost of the 6 emails and the new phone system is $79 or $80, and just CenturyLink alone is $81. So I'm actually saving money for the district, for all the landowners, and far more efficient and being compliant with the audit reports.
Now, all those email addresses are also on the latest happenings in the old website, as well as the contact us page has been updated.
Sounds good.
So, do we need a motion to cancel the CenturyLink?
Keeping it for a little while.
I don't know,
Well,
in
when,
reporting they said another 1 to 2 weeks, so
Yeah, so.
Well-
we're not canceled till.
no, I'm gonna say cancel when the time is right.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
so we
But
need
it's-
to make a motion. Yes, I'll make a motion. We'll eventually cancel CenturyLink once the new number ports over.
I second that.
Aye, motion carries. State of Florida card purchasing program.
Okay,
Chris.
the auditors said they didn't like us being reimbursed because of the incidence of potential for fraud, and they wanted us to enter into the State of Florida card purchasing program, which is a PC card, which Bank of America is an administrator for. And so I've been working with them since probably, last October. We sent the application for the second time. And then we finally got it up and going in January, February. And they have this, what they call the works. So we have it now in place. Audrey has a card, I have a card. We have for the district a credit line of $10,000, which is limited on the individual cards by roll. So, and then I have this system that I have to approve each of the transactions, and because it's an immediate system, so I can see immediately when somebody makes a charge, and then we pay that Bank of America bill, which you're paying for the first time today.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, and we still need to submit our receipts.
Yeah.
Even though we have P cards, when as I have done
You need to send them
thus
to
far,
me.
I submit my bills to her so that it's not just a charge on the P card.
Sure.
So we're still dealing with receipts, but it's not a reimbursement to
Are
someone's
we're
personal
scanning
card.
those receipts, maybe digital records?
Yes, absolutely.
And there, if you on the bill that you saw tonight, you'll see that they were all accompanied.
I did see that, yeah.
Moving forward.
So do we make a motion on that, or it's done?
No, well, that's one of the questions that I was just asking Ms. Chris.
Well,
We already approved it.
we approved signing the agreement. What we didn't approve was how the and we approved it in the policy manual, but we didn't really approve the credit line that was going to be established
With bank.
and or the users.
Okay.
So I don't know if we need to do anything more or not.
And sometimes those other steps are done by resolution as well that sets up, it would be the supervisors or the treasurer or the manager, and if there are limits to be put in place and or an agreement with Bank of America. I mean,
I made the recommendation that there only be 3 cards. Less risk is my motto. So the treasurer, the manager, and I have one for the chair, and every board member here can get in touch with any of us at any time for needs of the district. Just in making sure we don't have cards floating all over the place.
So
Does
here's
that
a
make
question that I
sense?
have. In the future, for example, if we go to Tallahassee in January to talk with our state representatives for some of this funding that's going on, at least 1 or 2 of us go up there, there's at least one night, a hotel, you can buy dinner, you can get gas there. Are we not now going to use our own personal credit cards
No.
and submit, so that we have to get one of these cards?
Yeah.
Okay.
Prior to Audrey's recommendation as part of the setup, I got cards for all of the supervisors, and I set the supervisor's limit up at 1,000, but it is easily changeable in the works program, so that if you were to take a trip, an extended trip or even a non-extended trip to Tallahassee, you could use the P card. It doesn't allow for gas purchases, so that would be something I would have to make a change for.
Yeah.
You'll need to do that.
But there was a reason at the time why we didn't. But yes, there are parameters of what the cards can be used for, and you can't buy alcohol, for instance. I'm sorry, or cigarettes. But you
You
can.
can have it back then.
One not going.
But if it's a restaurant, I'm saying you can't go to the ABC store and buy a drink.
Or we're going to set it up so that if we have to do a trip like that to benefit the district
Yes.
on legislation,
We can instantly activate the card.
Other than that, I don't see a lot of uses.
Yeah.
Other than buying some more signs that get
When
down.
you went to get the pay.
And I meant no disrespect by that recommendation to either of you guys are
no,
amazing.
I'm
I just
taking
want
that.
to be limited.
Actually,
Definitely.
my intent was not to give it to
Risk.
anybody
Risk
other than
limitations.
Audrey, and when you all needed it, then I'd give it to you. So
We got
you weren't
more
gonna.
items to cover.
So no action is necessary. It's not an
And do by
actionable thing.
resolution, right?
What oftentimes you do, since it's already put into place, either the board can say, do the resolution, Chris is going to give the details, the board approves this be a Bank of America card with these parameters, do the resolution, get it signed, is choice number one. Choice number two is we do the resolution and bring it to the July board meeting.
That's fine.
If we do the approval now, though, the cards could be being used, which is going to get us in compliance, which we need to be.
The cards are in use.
Okay.
And you agreed to that when you signed the original agreement.
Okay.
Just
Just
bring
bring,
it-
bring,
And
bring the
that was-
resolution to the board meeting.
Just bring a resolution.
We'll
forward.
talk about it.
Moving forward.
That way I won't screw it up.
Okay, so that's going to be tabled to.
23-24 budget discussion.
Okay, you have, and it's in very little print, but you also got it in bigger print when you got the thing. So if you pull out your sheets. Right now, if you go to page number 2 or page number 4, those are the expenses. And this is based on a 6-year average and under normal times. Under normal times. And the reason I say under normal times is because we are not in normal times because of all the grant applications going in the works, and we don't know what we're going to end up with and what we're not going to end up with and how much that's going to cost at this point. And so we need to know at some point what our matching contribution might be and what the time frame might be that we need to make up for that matching contribution. We have a lot of money that has been that's going to be carried over because we have not done the normal work of the district in this fiscal year. So things that we budgeted for last year have not been spent, and we moved that temporarily into our prime fund reserves.
And just let me say something, just for everybody who's still here, an understanding that I personally kept from trying to spend that money because we have applied for some matching grants. And if we have that money, we can double what we have or triple what we have if we have the money. If we spent the money to trim trees or to do this or that, we wouldn't have the money to match the grants. So holding that money back is going to well benefit the district.
What is the grants for? Are they open-ended or got specific?
You know what? There's multiple grants we have applied for. Okay. I would have to go through them. I'll be glad to talk with you after the meeting. I'll talk to you any other day of the week about it. But we've got about 40 minutes left here, and we have to be out of this building.
Okay, so based on the normal work of the district, we had typically spent $100,000 in drainage, and that on page 1 is summarized as canal cleaning, swale and road trimming, pesticide spraying, and miscellaneous repairs as needed. Road work. Last year we started to set aside, we incorporated $25,000 for miscellaneous road repairs so that we could start to do some road repairs. And even though our actual road repair is we haven't spent that money, I assumed that the board would want to continue that precedent and continue to build up a reserve for road repairs.
The patches are coming.
And so I have $40,000 for road repairs. I only have $750 for gates. That's typical because the gate's so new. And if you decide to enter into the maintenance agreement next year when the gate is a year old, we'll have the funds for that. I left swale mowing at $120,000, anticipating maybe a slight increase from Tony's or whoever gets that contract. From right now, we're paying $9,975, so I just upped it to $10,000 a month. Engineer, Ron, I expected that you would have, because of your time, and I don't know how the grants works, you're going to be spending more time dealing with the government entities and the grants and FEMA and so forth. So I put your budget at $100,000, even though we've ranged anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000. And I did that because I anticipated that you would have more time in dealing with those coordination with those other agencies.
And we're currently going back, when I got your spreadsheet, we started going back through and, analyzing our invoices to date, so we can kind of get a better projection on that. We'll share that with you as soon as we're wrapped up with it.
Okay, right now we've spent $92,700 in engineering costs. Not all to you though.
And part of that's coming back to us through FEMA.
Yeah,
Because
and that's what I don't know. Those are all
the
things
meetings
I
and
don't know.
everything that we've done with FEMA, which is probably about half of his salary for the year.
No, not much.
It's been pretty close.
Not according to his bill. Yeah. The legal, I have 40,000. Although we've spent 50. I don't know what you anticipate your billings for next year are. You've been a little higher this year because of Ian, and a little higher because of Gallagher. Typically, the legal fees have run anywhere from 28 to 40,000.
And I do not anticipate the higher level if we get Gallagher resolved, when Ian gets resolved and we're done with FEMA. The agreement with the city of Bonita Springs will get done this fiscal year, before
Hopefully
September 30. And so the revision to the board manual, all of those things a lot of that should settle down. Should settle down. You went through a process this year of selecting a new engineer as well, so you had a lot of activity, and so you had a lot of extra, in my opinion, activity that hopefully we won't duplicate next year. Hopefully.
All right. So for administration, I'm budgeting $68,543, which includes 24 for the secretary treasurer, 38 for the manager, and 600 for each of the supervisors, 3 times in related tax payments. Unless you anticipate doing any pay raises in September, then I'll need to change that number.
Pay raises for whom? I'm not getting one.
And actually, I would like to address that because that may be a factor. When I read the statute, it said supervisors could be paid $50 a day per day for any time they were doing business for the district. The annual landowners meeting is always voted $50 per meeting for each monthly meeting. This year's been out of the norm and unusual, and we're going to have some more unusual activity as we go forward into next year and the years ahead with those grants. So I don't know if I should budget more money for that if we ask the landowners that they should actually be paid what the statute says.
I could check to see what I have always used as a rule of thumb is the $50 amount, but I can look to see if they can have, upon landowner approval, if the district can have authority to pay more for the.
If that were true from the statutes that you read, and we were able to charge for that, all of the meetings that I attended with FEMA could be paid for by FEMA.
Could be reimbursed.
But FEMA doesn't pay anything if I don't get paid.
Right.
So, with all due respect, those months and months of meetings.
I'm thinking ahead. I'm thinking ahead.
None of the stuff that we talk about includes when John does stuff and the rest of us. It doesn't include the use of our cars. It doesn't include this or that. We did recently put in our budget for mileage, but I don't think any of us have done that as of yet.
No.
So we're not looking to get paid from this. We're just trying to
Cover your costs.
at least cover our costs. Okay.
Okay, so the auditor is based on the contract that we have currently in place, so that was $14,000. Property appraisers based on, I just did an increase because they indicated that there would be an increase. I don't really know exactly, and I've never been able to figure out how they calculate it, so I did that number. I did little bit of an increase in the insurance just because it increases a little bit each year from $12,769 to $13,500. Miscellaneous. We have spent more this year because of the hiring of the manager and the extra equipment, but we have typically run between 15 and 13. I've projected 16 with the additional services and the dismissal of some services. The extra mailing costs that we're going to have with the annual mailing. So I'm doing miscellaneous. And miscellaneous, if you go to page 4, covers postage, the Department of Economic Opportunity, the email service, FPL, legal ads, the manager's phone, the meeting room, the office costs, office supplies, phone service, Streamline, website hosting, subscription services, which are our software programs, and the backup, the UPS box rental, which is ridiculous, and postage. Then we come to the CIP Phase 1, and that is going to be wholly determined by how much by our next agenda item. And so that one's something different, the interest in administration, and then we have $3,000 for bank fees. So if you look at the revenues, in order to pay for all that, that's GM expenses are about $519,293. If we do nothing more than that, then the per acre expense or assessment would be about $499.79, which is less than last year. But I did not get a lot of feedback when I was asking for information on some of these costs on the grants and or any other special projects that the board members might have in mind for next year. We didn't do any of the perimeter road trimming, so I didn't include money for that. The road, perimeter road
be talking to Ron about that to see how that pans out. We're going to have to put money in for probably room rental this year as we move away from here. If we can't land something for free, there are a few expenses that we're going to need to. That's why I want to look at the budget this month. I want to go over it. I want to think about the things because I've already made notes of things we need to add to it. So.
Okay. So does anybody have any suggestions or ideas of things that they want to adjust based on what you have in front of you?
I'd like to put a category under miscellaneous. I don't know if it's going to be $100 a month, couple $100 a month, to have an internship with the students for Florida Gulf Coast University, the water school, to start getting them to come down and get involved in the canals and the water. And
how much did you want to budget for?
I don't know. Anybody have an idea what a university student internship would be? $15 an hour?
I think that's
usually free.
No. Well, they can. I think 15 is a reasonable.
True internship is
Free, yeah.
Yeah.
This would be a paid internship. We got to attract them.
We've hired a number of interns over the years, and we've always paid them, and they always seem to appreciate it. So.
Yeah.
So
Supervisor Cellucci, another way to get to the same place may be an agreement with FGCU to do that in coordination with the district, to give an opportunity for the students to get that experience. If you have the agreement with FGCU, there might be no cost, or there might be some cost that is a set number versus an hourly pay.
I'm sure we could compromise with the university by saying we have a paid internship, doesn't offer a lot. We want to get some of your students in here, but then your professors can supervise them. Maybe they're going to write some white papers, and then the university's still expending their own money by supervising the students.
Yes, sir. Normally it's an agreement between you and FGCU, and then all of those sweeteners.
But it'd be nice to go there with a sweetener.
Yes. All those
Why don't I put in the budget $200 a month?
That's reasonable.
Okay.
That's
Anything?
10 to 12 hours a month, a couple hours a week for somebody that.
Okay. Any other special projects, Jennifer, that you have in mind that you think needs to be addressed or thought? No. Okay. So Jim, you're going to think about your projects.
Yeah, I've got some things I'll add in. I'll talk to you about.
Okay. So if I had some specific numbers, I brought my computer so I could interject those numbers in there, and we could see how that would change. the assessment. I do think, and I do not have this budgeted, I do think that we need to continue to build up reserves for road repairs in the future, and road treatment in the future because of the life of our roads. We are going to see the CIP Phase 1 assessment be dramatically decreased, and if we are able to do what I would like to do, we're looking at a much lesser assessment this year than has been in the past. So, and that would be could be offset by your increased projects. But at the same time, I think we need to, if we do those added things, put those into some of the assigned accounts, funds that we have, so that those funds stay protected.
Right.
And then if you can give me an amount that you think you might need for the grant matching dollars, then we need to incorporate that as well. Because if we end up with, let's just say, needing $500,000 next year for matching grant monies, and I only have, say, $200,000.
Just for general information, we have grants we have applied for that would require 25% matching grant. We have other grants we have applied for to subsidize that matching grant.
It's very convoluted, very complicated.
So if everything comes true, then we won't have to worry about it too much.
Okay.
If it doesn't, get the tarred feathers out. But nonetheless.
All right. Well, we are sitting well right now. I don't know how the Brooks will respond when we send the invoice next year, because we did not do our normal Bonita bill cleaning this year, although I can give them the Ian cleaning bills as supporting documentation. Hopefully they will accept that. For revenues, other than the general maintenance revenue, I put into the budget $6,000 for use and permit connection fees. We're really down from prior years, and we're not meeting our current projections. We're at 8,300 this year, so I only put 6,000 because we're running out of land, for one.
Quick question: do we know of the 1,054 acres here, how much is owned by individuals versus, I think City Bonita has some, or the fire department has some, there's some other land, a lot of it's wetlands, but do we know what the actual breakdown is?
No, but I could kind of
I think we need to know that.
figure some. I mean, I know how many acres Bonita Springs BSU owns and Lee County owns, and the City of Bonita Spring owns. We have a number of LLCs and corporate entities that owns property within the district. We have, I can tell if it's vacant or improved. But I'm limited in some of the knowledge because I'm using the tax roll, so that would be kind of a challenge in making that analysis. I can make an attempt for you at the next meeting.
The reason I ask that question is we have about 660 buildings here now that are developed or under development.
Mm-hmm.
There's about 42 outstanding permits right now, so it's like 600. Call it 650. That means there's only 400, most of them are 1 acre lots that are left. So that means at the most you're going to get is 400 more properties here. And I don't think that's true because some are so much cypress and so much wetlands, no one's going to go through the expense of doing that. So the question really is, how much is left?
Not much.
Not that much.
Not that much.
Well, that was part of the reason we started our inventory of driveway culverts, is just identifying culverts that have been put in years ago that no development had taken place on, and then going back and comparing those with what permits we can find to see whether they were finalized out, whether or not we would have a shot at them for final CO to get any corrections made and that sort of thing.
But the reason I'm asking this question is a method to my madness. At some point, we will be built out.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the next 5 years or less.
Right.
So, what's happening though is Pulte's building, huge development over there. A lot of stuff is still going on around us. So, we only have so much, quote, money out of our pockets as landowners which to me reinforces, supports the grant request, the application, go to the state and say, look, more stuff's coming in to our district from all these developments going on. But you can't get blood from a stone. There's only 650 people here. 700 people at the most. Families that are paying into this. So I'm trying to get some numbers that might help us eventually with our applications, making our argument sound more valid of why we are asking for this. Because we're not 10,000 acres here to keep developing and keep taxing.
All right. I can play with it. I can send you the tax roll if you want to try and do some playing with it.
You do know one of the things we are working on is that interlocal agreement with the city of Bonita to be able to tax surrounding properties outside of our subdivision, so they have to pay their fair share.
Chris, can you get the tax roll in an Excel spreadsheet? Okay.
I have it.
Make it a whole lot easier for you.
Yeah, I have it. Obviously, the less number of permits that we have equates to less right-of-way permitting engineering costs. So that's, to me, that's kind of a balancing act between the two. So if we're not getting the permits, we're not spending the money, although we have so many open permits already still that we're dealing with. I have $3,750 for remotes. That's just a cost. And then for the bank and investment income, which we don't spend because most of it's in the prime, so that I have $32,220 projected. So when you look at the budget, you'll see that we have an excess of $61,000 coming in that's not going out. But what that $61,000 is comprised of is the $20,000 from the Brooks, which is never guaranteed, and our bank investment income essentially. So if you add those two columns together, that's $52,000 of that 61, and then take the other 6 is the use of connection permits. So that's where I'm at. That's my beginning point. Next month, you all will bring me more information, and you all will continue this discussion so that we can reach a conclusion in August and be able to sign our budget resolutions.
Okay. Are you done?
Yeah.
No action is required, Mr. Chairman.
Moving on.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Did I get anything on?
All right, so next thing. What's on the next thing?
Okay, we're at M, additional principal amount to pay at Bank of America's CIP PH1 and loan.
Okay, all right.
To no
That's
more than $88,197.38.
right. And the reason that we have that is, okay, the balance right now that we have in CIP Phase 1 is $300,749. If I take out the estimated account analysis bills for June 15th, which isn't there, it's $300,499. The Lee County tax collector, we have about $15,768,026 in uncollected, unpaid tax assessments, of which there has been certificates issued for each and every one, with one exception, and that is for a 2021 tax due that was paid on installments. So I will typically get that money in July. Last year we got a little bit in June, and then we got most of it in July. So if I get that $15,000 in July, and this is why I said up to, so I want you to give me some discretion to figure out exactly how much. If I get that $15,000, our principal payment is $213,333. If we do not do any extra pay down, we will have in the account about $102,933. But we assess the landowners extra money to pay down the note. So what I want to be able to do is use as much of that assessment that we collected to reduce the note as much as we can, because that will affect next year's assessment. I have to tell Bank of America what we're going to pay on the August 1st payment by mid-July. So if all the stars align and we're able to pay that $88,197.36 in excess of the principal required, we should end up in the account with about $1,278, which is what we normally have every year. Or we can just keep the money, pay the additional interest, and pay it off next year.
What's
That's
the interest rate right now?
4.25%.
This is money that's earmarked only for the
CIP payment.
Keeping it in a bank account serves no purpose if we're paying interest on the loan. So that's why putting as much toward that as we can is an important thing to do.
So, and I did research each and every tax unpaid assessment to see if a certificate was issued, and there was. So we should get that money next month.
Okay.
That does require board approval.
Put a motion on the floor, we approve it.
Second.
I'll second the motion.
You're the third.
Oh, okay.
So that,
Motion approved, carried.
to pay the additional principal amount of?
Up to,
Okay.
because I need flexibility, not knowing exactly how much I'm going to get.
So it's either 81 or it's 81 less 15,000 or 10,000 if you don't get all that. 15,000. So is it 15,000 in July, possibly paid, part of the 81,000 calculated?
Right now, if I don't get that 15,000, I can only pay 70,000
All right.
or 73,000.
But, okay, we're done with that.
Yes.
Moving on. Bonita Estero Rail Project. Anybody got any comments on it?
This is a discussion topic that John wanted to brought just to be aware.
Yeah, this is really for the landowners here, and we're obviously landowners as well. I think people need to understand that powers way beyond what we're doing here are trying to take the railroad out here from, actually it starts all the way up in Sarasota and eventually go down to Marco Island, that the railroads are donating the unused tracks rather than rescinding their easements, because rescinding easements means they have to clean up any PCBs, anything that's spilled out from those trains and all this, the last 100 years. So they're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart. They're saying, okay, we'll donate these railroads, go ahead, make walking trails and stuff. Great idea. My concern is Strike Lane has one entrance in, one entrance out. Anybody sit there? When I was painting the sign, St. Carlos Estates, I wish I had a toll booth. I would have made $1,000 that day, the amount of cars in and out, Strike Lane. Incredible the amount of traffic. And I'm thinking, they're coming back and forth across those railroad tracks. If they get what they want on this rail to trail program, they're going to have some kind of crossing walk there or something for people to walk with their dogs and everything. If you want traffic jams stopping with maybe a light put in there or something that says stop because these people are walking through this trail, my suggestion is going to be we push back on them and say, great, you want the trail? Go build, doesn't have to have a vehicle, just enough for an ATV type weight. Go down about 200 yards down the railroad track and do a sloping ramp trail bridge that goes over Strike Lane and just be DOT 14 feet or 15 foot up, and you'll walk a walking bridge or a golf cart bridge above Strike Lane and drops back down again. I've seen them in plenty of these trails where the road is too busy, so they build an overpass, a walking overpass over. So I think that's something the landowners here need to voice an opinion about, not just the district.
In the whole thing anyways, they don't want it to go through their community at all, so the lines.
I'm sorry, what?
The lines might shoot a hole in that anyways, they're pushing to stop it.
Yeah.
It's gonna go through.
Well, it's true, but not to sound selfish, I don't care about the whole community. I'm worried about our community here. That if it does come through, we say, great, this is what condition you have to do. You want it? Build the bridge. But it doesn't have to be a super $5 million engineering bridge. It's a pedestrian bridge, right? So, and the span of our road is enough that I know you and I can figure out the beam that has to go across. There's going to be no columns there. It'll span our road.
And if if you do that, you won't have an access point, so you won't have to have parking issues.
Yeah, no, you're right. That is through yeah. You don't access that. You got to go somewhere else to get on our trail. Yeah, I don't want steps walking up and stuff. No. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's just a flyover pedestrian.
But if you can imagine the traffic that made, I've been down there when we put up the flags and we do other things, the traffic is amazing. Tony probably better than anybody can talk about the traffic on Strike Lane. I know Dave probably can make some comments. He's right there by it all the time. But down by the railroad track, it really seems to get a little bit worse. But imagine having a walking path going by there. As much as I want the walking path myself, I think it's a great thing. But I can't imagine until I heard him bring it up a few minutes ago about the congestion that it's going to create for the residents here in the subdivision.
Well, it's still worse when you get to Old 41 anyway. So if we slow some cars down along Strike, I think that might be a good thing.
Okay, it's just out there for the people. The water district has nothing to really do with that, so we're going to move along. But
They are having town meetings on it. They had one, June 2nd, was it? I think.
Let me just add one more thing. I would probably use that trail, and if I could access it from Strike, that would make my life easier.
I'd like to use it. I'd like to use it too. I am concerned about the issue that was brought up. And I think it
And
deserves.
I don't think it's going to be. There's not going to be that many bicyclists.
But that's a fight for downtown, not here. Okay.
Last thing.
Adopting the Lee County Joint Mitigation Strategy.
Yes.
Yes.
Sir, I have
Put a motion on the floor to
A
adopt.
motion to adopt the Lee County
Second.
Joint Mitigation Strategy.
It's done.
Done.
All right, say that again.
Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Who did what?
Okay.
I second it, John.
Okay.
He seconded before I actually first.
Did we lose you, Mr. Pringle?
no, sir.
Okay, then we need a motion on the floor to accept the sign or adopt the sign at the end of the subdivision, making it officially our sign.
I present the motion that we adopt the sign because it's on right-of-way property.
Second.
Aye, motion carries. The other items that are on the agenda is the interlocal agreement with Bonita Springs. Did we discuss that and get approval on it, or is it open?
We did not get approval on it. The discussion was and recommendation was for the board to authorize the chair to negotiate the terms of that agreement. It's an interlocal agreement and to execute it with the assistance of legal counsel and the engineer, because it all may come to a head before the July board meeting.
And
We hope
make
it
a
will.
motion to authorize the chair to negotiate the interlocal agreement.
Thank you.
Second.
And to execute it.
And to execute.
And
Second.
the motion carries. Going on.
What was the fourth thing?
Okay, we've got to put I don't know what we need, but we have to move the meetings to a new location. I need the authority to take such action, find the new location, and tell whoever needs to advertise it to do so.
Yes, and then we will need to advertise that change.
So I will need to
What
take
about
care
the
of it.
public library? Do
I
they
will-
have
I-
meeting space?
I'm going to try not to go that far away. So we do have some local churches here. We do have a fire station sitting next door. We've got other options that I'd like to investigate. So that's what I would be looking at.
And that will be before the next
It'll
July
be
board
within the
meeting.
next week because you have to have time to advertise it.
Yes, sir. That's what I was saying. I got to have the location at least 10 days in advance of the board meeting.
I'll tell you what, I think that I could probably, let me check tomorrow and make sure, but it'll probably be the church for the next meeting. And maybe the next couple of meetings anyway,
Or the
because they've
landowners
already
meeting is
given us
gonna
permission to use the church for the annual meeting.
For the landlord.
So,
And that's something that have to go on the old website and the new website.
Yes.
Like a banner. New location will not be at the Chamber of Commerce anymore, and here's the new location for the meeting. That's going to be important.
Okay.
Some people may show up here next month.
okay, I think that at this point, we have public input. Anybody got any?
You had one more.
Well, you had
I
the
had what? Hang on, time out.
disposal of the
Disposal.
unsold
What is
surplus
it?
items.
Disposal of assets, old assets.
Oh, the disposal of the excess assets that we've already advertised. And I want an inventory of those items. So, for the board, okay? So, motion?
Motion to dispose of disposal of the disposal
Okay.
assets.
Second.
Aye, motion carries.
So, Mr. Chairman, real quick,
Yes, sir.
Okay.
there's a statute specifically on the disposal. It's, and we'll make sure that we get it right. But once you went through the process of doing the bidding process on gov deals, there's a lot of flexibility that you have on the disposal. So we'll get it done.
Now it can be in a garbage container.
Yes, sir, pretty much.
She
And/or
cannot take them out and sell
and/or given. No, she cannot personally do that, but you can give them to donate them to nonprofits, donate them to other governments. It can go for zero or dispose them in the trash can.
them. Okay,
Now that you've gone through that process, that's under 274.06 of the Florida statutes.
I got it. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
public input.
The other day, I saw an iguana up on the railroad track jump down into the Milford Marsh there. What's those things that swallow here? Mr. Enfield might know about it. There's that walls in the banks. And
I hate to break the advice to you, but they're all over our subdivision.
There were several dead ones that back on Benita Bill.
what is
I
this?
mean, they were this
What is
big, dead, and laying in the water.
What is that?
Just kill them because they taste good.
They opened the borders
In front of the car.
I
and
hear
they
they
let
make,
them come across.
It tastes like
I hear they make great tacos.
They taste like meat.
Do they taste like panther?
maybe Mike could get him a pellet gun and he's riding around with a straw cart.
My son keeps going.
Okay,
to
well,
We
some
gotta start doing something. They're already
chameleons that everyone has
They-
bringing them home.
they- Into the banks and
Put them in the pot.
cause problems.
I agree with you on that. Okay, so anything else on public input?
Yeah, just a little clarity on the change to the permit application forms where you're basically, my words, codifying surveillance for other jurisdictions. And I'm just wondering if there's an interest in doing that, are you concerned? And the other thing is, do you plan on entering properties to do this surveillance? And are you being,
We're not surveilling anybody.
well, that's what it is.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Okay, what word do you want me to use?
I'm a little confused with the words, and the other gentleman tried to throw some in out there a while ago. But the thing is, we're not changing anything. We're just in compliance with the city's already doing.
Okay, you're codifying the observation of other violations and reporting them to other people.
You know,
That's called surveillance.
Let me say
We're
this.
already doing it.
Okay, forget whatever you want to call it.
Jim,
Just ask me.
We've already been through this, but I would say this to you. There are dumpsters that get along the road, porta potties that get along the road, and we have a problem getting them moved. And if we take if we use all of our resources with the city of Bonita Springs for code enforcement to come do these petty little things, we'll never get them to do the important things. So part of it is to take care of the small problems, but all we're doing is standardizing. So
So is it your policy to be able to enter properties to look for these things?
no, we got no rights on your property.
Okay.
We have no jurisdiction to walk on your
So
property.
you were at 298-23, says you cannot enter properties, right?
We're not going to.
Right.
We have no intention.
Aware of that?
Yeah.
We agree.
Yes, sir. We are definitely aware of that. Yes.
You and I have had a conversation
Okay.
about
Well,
this.
no, that's right. We had that conversation,
Engineers.
but
can
that's
legally
specifically
trust
around
us.
something else.
Well,
I'm going to put a motion on the
That's been
floor
also
to adjourn the
prohibited by the
meeting.
court.
Yeah,
I second
just
that.
wouldn't go
I
on
second
their property
the
unless you gave me permission.
Too late,
Motion
John.
carries, meeting adjourned,
Meeting over.
and